It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here. That's what you've earned here tonight.
Forget about the crowds, the size of the school, their fancy uniforms. And remember what got you here. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the f***ing difference between winning and losing.
It's down to the wire with Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
Oh, Petey! Oh, Petey!
On the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Hello. This is a new show of Down to the Wire, and it might be the last show of Down to the Wire because we are going to be starting a new show on the network next week on Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. at night, Wednesdays and Thursdays, 3-hour show. Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Called The Sports Loudmouths. We're going to have some new guests. We're going to have new guys on our show. We're going to have Josh Silverberg, who's going to be joining us, and we're going to have Ike Feldman. Yes, Ike Feldman, who's going to be our reporter throughout the show. We're going to have a lot of fun for 3 hours, a lot of content, so definitely stay tuned for that. As you guys know, you can listen to Down to the Wire every single Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can call us at 631-500-0548. And ladies and gentlemen, you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. And you can download our app, and you better damn well download our app. You go to iOS, which is WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Speedy Petey, how was Connecticut? How was your family? How was your mom?
She was doing fine, very happy to see me, as she usually is.
Crying.
No, she was not crying. She was not crying, and
sure?
She's not.
You sure she wasn't like that?
She's not that high pitched. So.
No, she wasn't crying. She wasn't.
She was not crying, and she was not
affected by your loss of leaving.
She is, but I mean that's another story. But yes, they enjoyed it. I didn't see my brother as much because he had a lot of volleyball stuff he had to deal with. He's now a captain of a team.
He's a captain of a team, so he's a little bit more athletic than you are.
Way more. That's not even close.
Nah, I don't think you're very athletic. That's the problem.
That's not even close. He's been a very good athlete, many different sports throughout his life so far. But he's definitely found a specialty with volleyball. So I didn't get to see him as much. But still,
which brother is this?
Aiden, my youngest.
Your youngest brother. How old is youngest brother?
His senior year in high school.
Senior year. Wow. I'm getting old. I mean, I remember when he was like 14 when you started here, or 15.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now he's like he's going to be a senior, or he is a senior.
He's a senior in high school.
It's crazy.
I'm
an old man.
Obviously missed out on his season last year because of COVID. So now he gets essentially a redemption story, and they're supposed to be very good.
How wonderful. As you guys know, we are always live throughout our network throughout the week. Speedy played sports.
Thank you. Yes, Clarence. I played. That doesn't mean I was that good.
Yeah, well, he wasn't. He liked to play piddle paddle with his little bullies. But anyways, he's more of a ping pong player than a basketball player, if you know what I mean. But I want to get into first, and we have a lot of things to talk about. We're going to get into the whole Brooklyn Nets, LaMarcus Aldridge signing.
Your favorite player.
Yeah, well, I actually like LaMarcus Aldridge. I just didn't like the fact that he signed with the Brooklyn Nets. But nevertheless, I still don't think the Brooklyn Nets are going to win a championship. I do believe that there's a good chance they can come out of the Eastern Conference, but I don't think they're going to win a championship. But I will tell you why a little bit later into the show. We're going to get into some baseball conversation. The New York Yankees and the New York Mets start their season on, ladies and gentlemen, when, Speedy? Thursday.
The Yankees are the first game against Toronto, 1:05 p.m., and the Mets are in Washington at 7:05 p.m.
So we will get into that a little bit later in the show. But all in all, we always get into this. We get into football. Yes, and if anybody did not get a chance to see Zack Wilson's pro day on Friday, well, you missed something great. And I will say this.
And Mikey C saw it and still missed something.
Yeah,
great.
well, Mikey sees Mikey's head so far up his ass. He doesn't know what good is to bad. But nevertheless, what you saw with Zack Wilson is an ability to throw the ball in so many different directions, moving to the left, throwing to his right, doing the over-the-shoulder pass deep, throwing the over-the-shoulder pass short. We saw so many different things and so many intangibles that we can see with Zack Wilson, how special he could be in the NFL. Now, a lot of Jet fans out there are wondering, including yours truly, on why would they give up on Sam Darnold. Now, Sam Darnold, if anybody saw Sam Darnold's pro day, he had a sensational pro day. He threw in the rain. Some of the scouts were saying that this guy is a no-brainer number one pick. And to me, to compare and contrast, a pro day is not enough. Now, a lot of scouts and a lot of reporters and a lot of analysts believe that Zack Wilson going into this year's draft is a little bit better than Sam Darnold. Now, how would you know that? Now, I understand that we can go back and forth and discuss the intangibles of Sam Darnold, how strong his arm was, or how strong his arm is, or some of the dumb mistakes we've seen Sam Darnold make over the last couple of seasons. But what really affects me and really shows me off on why I would move on from Sam Darnold now after seeing Zack Wilson's pro day is the fact that Sam Darnold can't stay healthy. He's been in the league for 3 years. Yes, he's 23, going to be 24. The guy can't stay healthy. And that's going to be a huge problem moving forward with a young team and a rebuilding team like the New York Jets. But what I did see with Zack Wilson's pro day is the way he saw the field, the way he sees the field. And I've watched clips and I've watched a couple of games this year. I watched his ball game this year. He was sensational. He threw 3 touchdown passes. He ran in 2 touchdowns. He had 5 touchdowns in all. He was sensational.
5 touchdowns in the first half.
Yes, he was really, really good. And you see what he can do in a game. He can ruin a game. He can wreck a game. Or he can make mistakes in a game. Now, the one thing about Zack Wilson that, again, when you're looking at statistics and you're analytically trying to pick and contrast one player to the other, is Zack Wilson don't make a lot of mistakes. He's a very accurate thrower. He threw 3 interceptions this year. The only problem that really bothers me about Zack Wilson, he's only done it 1 season. He didn't do it multiple seasons. He didn't do it 2 seasons that we've seen Justin Fields do it. We've seen Trevor Lawrence do it in 2 seasons. So we don't know precisely what Zack Wilson could do in back-to-back years or consistent. Consistency is very, very important when you're in the NFL because you want to grow and you want to get better. But what I do know about Zack Wilson is he's not afraid of the big game. He's not afraid of being in front of the cameras. He's not afraid of people watching over him and giving him pointers. That's what and I learned something about Zack Wilson. He has ADD, which can't sit still. And for a guy that has ADD, usually those are the kids that are not good in school. They're very hard of comprehending certain things. This guy is a sensational player when it comes to studying film and figuring things out on film. And his sophomore year of college, he had a 3.3 GPA, which to me stands out in a BYU school, one of the more known collegiate smart schools for a lot of accountants and doctors and lawyers that go to BYU. Zack Wilson had a pretty good GPA. Now, again, compare and contrasting Sam Darnold to Zack Wilson, you could be thrown off because when you look at Sam Darnold was he really stepped on the field and really stepped on in front of the limelight, winning the Rose Bowl with USC, completely dominating the Rose Bowl through 5 touchdowns. He was a no-brain, number 1 pick, suck for Sam type of player. Now, over the last couple of years, Sam Darnold really hasn't proven himself to be a franchise quarterback yet. But this is a kid that didn't have enough players around him. Who did he have this past year? A kid like Denzel Mims who missed 6 games, the first 6 games of the season and fought injury all season long. Jamison Crowder that missed a couple of games but was fairly healthy. Perriman, who to me is a 3rd or a 4th guy as far as a wide receiver is concerned.
Some years.
He lost his number 1 wide receiver in Robbie Anderson to free agency. He had no running game whatsoever because Adam Gase didn't know how to run the ball. And his best running back was 60 years old. So, and Le'Veon Bell didn't want to be there. And Jamal Adams didn't want to be there. And it was a team in a state of flux. So you can't blame the young quarterback in Sam Darnold for that. What you can blame in Sam Darnold this past year is the mistakes, the throws in bad situations, putting it into the safeties, possessions, putting it into different schemes that didn't even make any sense, throwing the ball. He forced the ball in places that didn't make any sense. That's pretty much what I believe Sam Darnold was. What is CJ saying?
CJ says, sign a vet like Alex Smith to come in and mentor the kid so he can absorb the speed of the NFL game. Don't make the same mistake that was made with Darnold by throwing in the fire from the get-go. And he also says, yeah, we sucked for Sam, but not only did the Jets fail Darnold, but he failed himself. Yeah, I agree with that kind of thing because remember when Sam Darnold was there, it was kind of surprising because they still had McCown there and they still had also had Teddy Bridgewater there at that time.
And they got rid of McCown after the first year.
So you were thinking at that point where, all right, yeah, especially with McCown bumping around teams the way he did. Bridgewater, he was coming off an injury, but he was still a good quarterback at that time. It was kind of a surprise in considering that. So, yeah, I could definitely see a scenario like that, especially with the way Alex Smith played last year. A great comeback story with Washington, comeback player of the year. And that's something that you could see really boosted that culture, too, not only just the football end of it. And that's something that could be a big spark for the Jets.
And that's why when people are trying to compare what should the Jets do, and I've read a lot of articles with Justin Fields versus the whole Zack Wilson. I think Justin Fields is the best quarterback coming into this class. I've said it. I will say it again. I still think he's the best quarterback in this class because he has the most intangibles of success because he's the most athletic quarterback in this class. Now, Zack Wilson is a more accurate thrower. He has probably a better arm than Justin Fields, and he sees the field better than Justin Fields. But as far as intangibles and the athletic ability, Zack Wilson doesn't touch Justin Fields. Now, I do believe Zack Wilson is more athletic than Trevor Lawrence. That's not saying much. I think Trevor Lawrence is 6'6", athletic beast. He runs pretty good for a guy his size, but there are some deficiencies that I've seen in Trevor Lawrence's game, especially this season. Now, I do say that Trevor Lawrence is going to be the number one pick because Urban Meyer didn't even show up to Zack Wilson's pro day. So pretty much you know what Jacksonville is going to do. They're going to draft Trevor Lawrence. Now the question is, and we will get into the whole San Francisco trade and my thoughts on why San Francisco moved up to number 3. I think it was a crazy move, but John Lynch has made a lot of crazy outlandish moves in the last couple of years, but they have worked for him.
CJ says we would be having an entirely different conversation about Sam if they started McCown at the beginning of the season, let him start, and then let Sam take over after sitting for a little bit. Yeah, I think that's what everybody thought was going to happen at the beginning of the season. I don't think the majority of people were not saying throw him into the fire.
What is Clarence saying?
Even though that was the trend. Clarence says the only problem with Fields is, in my opinion, if his first read isn't there, he starts to panic. I know, Errol, you've said the same thing at times. Mm-hmm. I also think that has to do, though, with the fact that he played for Ohio State, and he didn't really have to look at his second options because, again, they were just so dominant.
And they ran the ball a lot.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's necessarily incapable of doing it, though, either, Clarence.
I think you have to worry about that because the NFL, it's all about looking at your second and third options on throwing the ball, and that's the NFL. Zack Wilson is very, very good at that. You watch some of his tape, you can see that he's very good at it. Trevor Lawrence, I would say he has some deficiencies in that too. The thing when you compare and contrast Trevor Lawrence to the Justin Fields and the Zack Wilsons of the world is Trevor Lawrence won the national championship his freshman year. So all in all, everybody thought he was going to be a generational quarterback. But in the big game in the last 2 years, Trevor Lawrence has not shown up. He didn't beat Justin Fields this year in the ball game. He didn't. And the year before that, he didn't win the national championship against Alabama.
LSU.
I'm sorry. LSU. So, again, against the quarterback in Joe Burrows, who a lot of people believe is going to be an up-and-coming superstar in the NFL coming off a knee injury. So, again, you can argue what Trevor Lawrence is. You don't know what Trevor Lawrence is. You can argue what Justin Fields is, but you don't know what Justin Fields is. And Zack Wilson, I think there's a little bit more that we know about Zack Wilson than we know about both other quarterbacks. Because I think with Zack Wilson, you know he's an efficient quarterback when it comes to passing. You know that he sees the field very, very well. And you know that he's a lot more athletic than he puts himself out to be.
Clarence says, against Indiana is a good example of that, but his athleticism is good enough for the NFL. Yes. I think a lot of people, and the same thing with Northwestern too, the way the Big Ten was this year, a lot of people were surprised because teams like Penn State and Michigan and Minnesota that were good last year were all of a sudden bad this year, and then it completely reverted to where Indiana and Northwestern, especially defensively, were very good. And you saw Justin Fields against the Northwestern in the first half especially was really bad in that game. So, yeah, they exposed him to an extent, but every quarterback has that. Lawrence had his duds against Syracuse and North Carolina, I think, his sophomore year. So every quarterback's going to have that. I'm sure Zack Wilson did before this breakout year. So every college quarterback is going to have that to some extent, Clarence.
And Clarence says chill on Burrows. And I'm chilled. I'm chilled.
Errol likes Burrow.
I love Joe Burrows.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a star in this league. The only problem with Joe Burrows is they need to find offensive line help that's going to protect this kid because he is not a mobile quarterback. He can run out of the pocket. And now we saw Jimmy Garoppolo coming back from the injury that he came back, the same injury as Joe Burrows, and he's not the same mobile quarterback that he was before he got injured. So Joe Burrows has got to be that pocket-present quarterback that we expect him to be, and then when he gets into trouble, he can move inside and out of the pocket. He's not the mobile quarterback that Justin Fields is, or a Zack Wilson is, or even a Trevor Lawrence. He's not that type of quarterback, but he does have the arm strength, and he has the ability to understand the game and the field the way he does. And yes, I do believe they're going to draft Sewell. Mm-hmm. I do. I think he's going to fall right where they wanted him.
Yeah, the other trades that we're going to get to later make that kind of inevitable now because I don't think Atlanta's going to go after an offensive line.
No, they're drafting a quarterback.
Yeah, if they draft a quarterback, somebody else will.
They're going to trade out of that pick.
Yeah, trade out of the pick. So, yeah, I think it's inevitable that Cincinnati, who has a very rich history with offensive linemen, only recently they've started to have bad offensive lines. They're normally very good with that. Very good, especially with tackles, too. So I agree with you, Clarence. I think that'll be the option, and that would be the best-case scenario for Cincinnati. And then good job on the Bengals' part as well for finally doing something that they should have done 4 years ago.
Absolutely.
They cut Bobby Hart.
Well, thank God. I mean,
worst tackle I've ever seen.
Even adding Sewell, they still have some deficiencies on their interior. They need to draft some interior help. I not by much.
It's not as bad as people think, though.
No, they're a lot better than people say them to be. But Joe Burrows got hurt because he didn't have any offensive tackles that could protect him, except one in Williams.
Right.
And Williams, I will say that he looks like a bust. Okay?
It took a while for him to get back.
Yes, he looks like a bust. Now, I'm not saying that he is, but being that he came from Alabama and he was a top 10 pick, a lot of people thought that he was going to be a lot better than he is. And he has not been. He really has not shown up to be as good as everybody thought he was going to be.
The first year, obviously, he was hurt. Then it took him a while to get back. He played better.
2 years to get back.
It took him 1 year to get back.
No, a year and a half, which is almost 2 years.
He played better in the second half. So this is really kind of not, I think, the make or break in terms of him being a left tackle, especially if they draft Sewell, because Sewell's going to be the left tackle if they draft him. And even if he's the right tackle, it still has to progress where he's going to get that kind of contract. Because even right tackles now are getting paid a lot more, too. Yep. And if he's coming up in that contract year, especially since this regime, they technically drafted him, but they wanted a lot of other players too that got stolen from them too. So I don't know if Williams was necessarily their first choice in that draft either, even though I thought it was a great pick.
I thought it was a great pick too. I liked him. I wanted the Jets to draft him, and obviously they didn't. And Cincinnati had their offensive lineman. Now, I do look at the quarterback position going back to the New York Jets and trying to compare and contrast because there are reports saying that the Jets could keep Sam Darnold and draft a quarterback. I think that makes more sense right now going into the season, starting Sam Darnold in the first 2 or 3 games. Let Zack Wilson play a little bit behind Sam Darnold. See if Sam Darnold could play with the talent that he has around him, show what he can do, and then move Sam Darnold because then you get him on the high and maybe you can get more for the buck. I don't think they need to trade Sam Darnold right now. Maybe in the middle of the draft, if somebody gives them something that they can't refuse. I mean, there's stories coming out that the Broncos and the Panthers are very interested in Sam. I'm sure there'll be other teams like the Bears that might be lurking around trying to pick him up. But there's just so many things that you can see the Jets do in the next couple of weeks that really could solidify what the Jets are and what they're going to do with Sam Darnold.
Yeah, because somebody's going to miss on a quarterback in the draft, too. So there's always going to be scenarios where teams that are in the middle of the first round or the late end of the first round, or even teams that maybe didn't have a first-round pick might trade multiple seconds or something like that in order to land Darnold, if that's the case. Now, the question is, how many trading up scenarios are we going to get, and how many other quarterbacks are going to go in the first round? A lot of draft analysts think 5 quarterbacks go in the first round.
Yep.
It might only be 3.
I think 5 will go.
Or in the top 10 is what I'm saying.
4 in the top 10, unless Jones is something that if Carolina don't get a quarterback before the draft, they're drafting Jones.
Yeah, but a lot of people thought that in other years too, and it was more spaced out where the teams were more strategic with their trades.
There's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks.
Right, but they were more strategic with their trades where they didn't have to give up as much. They only moved up maybe 6 spots or something like that, like Buffalo did with Josh Allen. They went from only 12 to 7.
Speedy, it's a foregone conclusion that the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks. It's right now. Trevor Lawrence 1, Zack Wilson 2, and either Trey Lance or Justin Fields being number 3. That we already know what's going to happen. Why would San Francisco, and we're going to get into that in just 1 second, why would San Francisco jump from all the way to 12, giving up 3 first-round draft picks to move to 3rd and trade with Miami? The only reason why is for a quarterback.
Yeah, I'm just saying in terms of 5 in the top 10, I think is.
I don't think 5, 4.
Yeah,
I think 4.
I think that's because Fields is going to go in the top 10 too. So whoever San Francisco takes, I mean, it should be Fields, but it probably won't be.
Trey Lance. I think it's going to be Trey Lance.
Like I said on the Weekend Crunch, just the timing of it says it's probably not going to be Justin Fields.
They want Zack Wilson, but they're not getting him because the Jets have made it clear that they're keeping and they're staying in that spot. Mm-hmm. And the only reason why they'd be staying in that spot and not trading out for 3 first-round draft picks is because of a quarterback. And who might that be? It looked pretty damn sure watching the pro day of Zack Wilson that it's going to be Zack Wilson. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, so those scenarios will come into play, and all of a sudden at that point, you're going to have other teams that are not able to trade up, or teams that were highly favored to trade up that all of a sudden don't have that same urgency, and then the urgency factor for Sam Darnold goes up. Mm-hmm. Now the question is, again, what is still the market value of it? Because we've been hearing different things. All right, he's going to get a second, he's going to spawn a second, then we're hearing, okay, maybe a first from the Saints or a first from the Steelers or something like that. Then all of a sudden he was struggling, then we heard he's only going to get a third or something like that. So where's his market value at? Mm-hmm. And where's the biggest sense of urgency? Because it could happen at the trade deadline. The question is, how long will Sam Darnold be able to tolerate that if he knows he's not going to be a starting quarterback with the Jets? Mm-hmm. Will he be able to take that on? Will he get frustrated and maybe that diminishes his trade value too? So the draft is definitely one scenario.
He's going for a 2. He's definitely, I was reading that it could be a 3 and a 4. There's no way. There's no way the Jets are just trading him for a 3 and a 4. They'll get a 2 and a 4 for him, a 2 and a 5 for him, but they're definitely getting a second-round draft pick for Sam Darnold. I don't know why these experts or these analysts or these writers are writing that they're not going to get more than a 3rd round or a 4th round pick. That's the most ridiculous statement. You're talking about a kid that's 23, going to be 24 years old. He still has a lot of football left in him, and I think that if he goes to the right franchise that has a good enough team or good players around him, like the Broncos, like Clarence is saying, mm-hmm. You're talking about weapons all over the field. I think Sam Darnold will flourish over there in Denver.
That's a lot of nice young skill players they got over there.
Yeah,
even,
I think
even losing
flourish.
Philip Lindsay.
I don't like the coach over there. I think he's more of
Vic Fangio.
Yeah, I think he's more. I think he's more of a defensive-minded coach.
Well, he's a great defensive coach.
Yeah.
As a head coach, I don't think he's been as bad as people think, though. A lot of people don't like it with the challenges, which is fine. But I think in terms of managing a roster that was really banged up last year and a lot of new defensive players, I actually think he did fine considering that.
Yeah, and again. Going back to Sam Darnold, I just think that a lot of people are putting a lot of pressure on this kid, and I don't think he deserves. There are some points that people make are quality points. He really, when he was playing, he didn't really produce. And a quarterback is supposed to make everybody around him better. That's what everybody says. Sam Darnold should be making even second-tier players better around him. Here's the problem. As good as Sam Darnold could be, and we saw flashes of what Sam Darnold could be, he can't stay healthy. And when he comes back from injury, or he's trying to get the tempo, or trying to figure out consistency, he's not as consistent because he's not having enough time, or he doesn't get enough time on the field to figure that out.
CJ says it's lazy analysis. You could still have teams that potentially could give a late first for him. Yeah, that's what we're saying for the draft scenarios. If the teams that can't trade up strike out, or there's more quarterbacks than people thought selected in the first round, then all of a sudden, yes, he becomes a lot bigger value, especially a late first round team, a playoff team,
yes,
like the Saints or the Steelers, or even Chicago.
I'm so surprised that Jameis Winston got that contract from the Saints, because honestly, Sam Darnold would fit like a glove in Peyton's offense. He would fit like a glove. a guy that likes to throw the ball. Sam loves to throw the ball down the field. And with the weapons that they have over there in Saintsville, he could do very, very well over there in a Peyton type of offense. It really fits the quarterback play. I don't think Jameis Winston's going to really he's not going to really fit there. Now, we'll see. Only time will tell, especially in the beginning of the season. But you can't trust in Hill and Winston that they're going to figure something out in that division where they were the best team in that division for how many years? I'm talking about almost 8 years they've been the best team in that division. And still, they don't know who their quarterback is this year. And I don't know if they do know who their quarterback is, even bringing back Hill and Winston.
They might never know for a while.
I don't think they're going to figure that out this year. I think that the best chance they possibly have, these teams need to open up their eyes. There is a future quarterback of your organization that's still very young, that's sitting right there with the New York Jets. You can get for either a second and a fourth or a second and a fifth. You're not getting him for a third, and you're not getting him for a fifth or a fourth. You're not getting him from one pick. You're going to have to give multiple or double the amount of picks to get Sam. You're not going to the Jets are not going to trade him for a first-round draft pick.
Clarence says Jets trade for Jameis. Probably
no way.
Not.
No
Probably
way.
Not.
Why would they trade for Jameis when they have the number 2 pick?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
And if they're going to go for a backup quarterback, they're going to go for a veteran like Alex Smith.
Yeah,
right?
Alex Smith. Who else could be available this offseason? Joe Flacco just signed. Yeah. I was thinking about bringing back Joe Flacco, but they'll bring somebody back that is a veteran quarterback that can help out Zack Wilson. Zack Wilson's going to start no matter what in the beginning of the season, unless Sam is there and they want to test the waters and see what Sam could do in the first 3 or 4 games, and then his value goes up and they move on from him. I don't know. But Sam, they're not going to put Sam through that situation where he's going to see Zack Wilson flourish while he's the backup quarterback. They're not going to do that. They're going to do everything they can to get as much back for Sam Darnold. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of Jet fans are thinking, well, who do you want, Justin Fields or Zack Wilson? My friend Eric reached out to me today. He says, are you reading all these reports? Yeah, I read the reports. I read how good. I've said it over and over again. I think Justin Fields is the most all-around talented quarterback in this class. But throwing ability and seeing the field ability, that goes to Zack Wilson. Now, Trevor Lawrence, he has the ability to do all those things, but what scares me about Trevor Lawrence is in the big game the last 2 years, he has not shown up to. And that, to me, shows you the type of quarterback that he is in the NFL. He's going to a Jacksonville Jaguar team that Urban Meyer obviously doesn't know what he's doing when it comes to free agency. Look what he brought in. He overspent for players that I wouldn't overspend for. So Urban Meyer, I saw him on a couple of shows this past weekend that he joined King's show talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, Peter King. Mm-hmm. And I didn't like the interview. I like Urban Meyer. I didn't like what he had to say. I think he threw me off on what he was looking for and where he sees his team. He likes hanging out with the players in the weight rooms. Why? I have no idea. That's what he loves to do, and that's what he misses. But I think that Urban Meyer is going to either put his stamp to the Jacksonville Jaguars or completely bury the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence and the generational type of quarterback that everybody said that Trevor Lawrence is. Might fall apart because we've seen a lot of generational quarterbacks, a.k.a., you know who I'm talking about, who was drafted right behind Peyton Manning, who everybody thought Mr. Leaf was going to be that good of a quarterback, a generational type of quarterback, and look what he turned out to be. He was in and out of jail, and he's not the same quarterback that anybody. And how about Jamarcus Russell, another one, who completely was a bust. Okay, so I'm not saying the
Raiders were smart.
I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence is anywhere like those guys, but again, when you put the pressure on him and he's going to a franchise that doesn't know what they're doing and has a GM there that is new and trying to figure things out, there's a lot of scary thoughts of where Jacksonville was going to be this coming season.
Clarence says Trevor going to need a good defense and O-line to be successful. Their O-line, Jacksonville, is actually not bad. Their defense needs a lot, though.
Well, they have one good player, Allen. That's it. Josh Allen. That's their best. That's their
and
best.
Miles Jack, I would say.
Yeah, Miles Jack, but Miles Jack is getting old. You know what I mean? Not old. I'm sorry. He can't stay healthy. That's the best. Right. With his knee problems and stuff like that. That's the only thing that worries me about Miles Jack. But all in all, they need a lot of help on the defense. When this defense was, 3-4 years ago, was one of the best defenses in the league.
The best defense of 2017.
And that had a lot to do with Tom Coughlin and the way he wanted to build this team. Now all of a sudden, Tom Coughlin is gone, and they're trying to rebuild this team around offense, and I think that's a bad look. You need defense to win. So, and as you saw with the New York Jets and bringing in Robert Saleh. So it's so interesting. But getting into the San Francisco move, Speedy, I'm going to let everybody know my thought. I'm sorry, I have the hiccups. Speedy, what is your thought on this move with the San Francisco 49ers and the Miami Dolphins?
It's great for the Dolphins. I think they're the biggest winners of this in terms of getting extra draft picks because they still need a lot on that offense, especially to develop whatever young quarterback. It seems like it's going to be Tua now. It seems like they're committing because they're trading back. So Miami did a great job on that end. The Niners, they have the ability to make that aggressive move because they have a talented roster. The question is, which quarterback are they taking? And that's the one thing that scares me when I look at the timing of it because I thought initially, all right, maybe they're trying to do it for Fields, but Fields didn't do his pro day yet. So you're judging on Wilson, and obviously, like you were saying, it's probably 80-85% sure that the Jets are going to take him at this point.
Oh, it's 110%. It's not 80-85. It's 110%. They're going to draft Zack Wilson. That's a fact.
So in
Take that
case,
to the bank.
So in that case, you're now judging Trey Lance and Mac Jones, who, yeah, they might go before their pick, but you also could have gotten a better deal where they didn't have to trade all those draft picks in that case. Now, I don't think it's bad that what they moved up for, they're trading up just specifically to 3, but maybe they could have gotten a scenario where they could have traded up to steal a quarterback from Carolina. Maybe they just move up a couple spots to trade with Detroit or something like that. And that's where I've always been a little skeptical with John Lynch because sometimes between contracts and trades and, again, these kinds of draft scenarios,
he's made some silly moves.
He can get over-aggressive at times.
He's made some silly moves.
Now, the Niners have leeway to do that because of their roster, but they still have to get the right quarterback. And, again, I think a lot of those scenarios, these quarterbacks will still be there at other points because even though it's, again, a lot of quarterbacks go in the top 10, not every team's taking a quarterback.
Snug the cap.
Hey!
Oh, my God. Breaking news, Deshaun
Snug
Watson,
the
8 years, $400 million. Thank you,
Welcome
Snug.
back.
Well, I'm happy that Snug is here. Snug is a hard worker, and he's been a fan of the network and really the fan of my show for a very, very long time. So happy to have Snug back. But it's so interesting when you look at San Francisco and that move, how it came about with the whole Zack Wilson thing. Now, I do believe that they were negotiating and trying to talk with the New York Jets, being that they have so many connections with Mike LaFleur and Robert Saleh. I do believe that John Lynch reached out to the organization with the Jets and said, what are you doing with that second pick? And I think the Jets pretty much said that we're keeping that pick because they're going to draft Zack Wilson. So they know that Zack Wilson's going to be off the board. And now you look at Trey Lance, we've seen Trey Lance, we've seen Jones, and we haven't seen Justin Fields. And I do believe Justin Fields will be on top of everybody's boards on his pro day. I think it's on Thursday or Friday this week.
Yeah.
Where everybody's going to be watching this because it's going to be a give or take on where Justin Fields is going. Is he going 3? Or is he going 4, 5, or 6, or maybe even 8? Mm-hmm. Now, if he falls to 8, you know he's going 8. There's no question Carolina will draft him. Mm-hmm. But I don't think he's falling 8. I think that he will not go past Atlanta. Atlanta will draft Justin Fields if he falls to Atlanta. And Atlanta's drafting 4th. So if they decide, if San Francisco decides to go with Trey Lance at number 3, which I believe that's what they're going to do, Justin Fields will go 4 to the Atlanta Falcons. This could be the first time that 4 quarterbacks were drafted 1, 2, 3, 4. And if 5 quarterbacks get drafted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which it's not going to happen because it's Cincinnati, this could be the first time that 5 quarterbacks get drafted in the first 7 picks. So it's going to be very interesting on draft day. I could see a team move up with Cincinnati to snag up a quarterback at number 5. I could really, especially if Justin Fields does not get drafted at 4. I could see a team doing everything they can to trade up with Cincinnati because Cincinnati could still get Sewell,
right,
moving out. Let's say Carolina. Carolina decides because we all know where Miami is going at number 6. Miami is drafting a wide receiver. Everybody knows that's why they moved up from 12 to 6.
Yeah.
Because they gave up one of those picks to move up to 6 with the Philadelphia Eagles, which made no sense.
What are the Eagles doing? That makes no sense.
Made no sense whatsoever. They got an extra first-round draft pick, But it still didn't make any sense what the Eagles are trying to do.
Have fun with either Jalen Waddle or whatever corner you'll reach on.
It's so interesting. And yes, Clarence is saying $91 million, and Matt Ryan's still there. Yes, you have Matt Ryan for one more year. You let Matt Ryan start this year. You have Justin Fields sit behind him, learn the offense with a new head coach, new offensive guy. And then after this year, Matt Ryan goes to free agency, or you release him, let him go to San Francisco if San Francisco still doesn't believe in Trey Lance.
Develop Trey Lance. He'll develop Justin Fields and Trey Lance.
Or Matt Ryan goes to the New England Patriots, or of one of those teams that are looking to win now. So there'll be teams looking to win now that'll be looking for a veteran quarterback that still has it. So there's a lot of options.
Maybe he'll go to the Saints.
Maybe that too.
Screw the Falcons.
That could happen too. That could happen too. Very, very much so. I didn't even think of that. So there could be a lot of things that the Atlanta Falcons are thinking, but you can't pass up knowing that the next 2 years of draft classes, that there's not going to be any good quarterbacks. They're saying that the next 2 seasons, the quarterbacks are not good. So you're talking about 3 years, you have to wait for your franchise quarterback. No team's going to want to do that. You're looking to win now, especially with the GM and a coach there, where their careers are on the line, or their jobs are on the line. So what is Snug saying?
Matt Ryan is only 124 years old. Why would Atlanta draft a quarterback?
Wow.
So how old does that make Tom Brady?
Very old in doggy years.
212.
In doggy years he is. It's unbelievable what Tom Brady is doing. But that's a whole nother story. But it's so interesting when you look at this trade, and this really shook up this year's draft. It really did, because now you could see players that you wouldn't have thought fall out of the top 10. I'm talking about top 5 talents. You remember CeeDee Lamb, he fell to number 17 with the Cowboys last year when I thought he was a top 5 talent. Now you're talking about maybe 5 or 6 players falling out of the top 15.
I'm seeing way too many mock drafts, too, that have the Giants passing up on Devontae Smith, and yet he'll be there at 11? Like, odds are that's not going to happen as it is. And then if that ends up happening, goodbye, Dave Gettleman. We don't want you here.
No, if the Giants are drafting at 11, which they are, they're drafting a wide receiver, especially if Smith is sitting there. I mean, it makes no sense unless they believe that their nice little Galladay is their number one guy. I don't think he's a number one guy. I think he's a number 2 guy. If you somehow get Devontae Smith and you got Kenny Galladay, that's a good offseason. You really solidified your wide receiving core, and you still have Sterling Shepard there. And if you decide to bring Evan Ingram back, I mean, you have a pretty good, and then you have Saquon Barkley coming back. That's a pretty good selective style of weapons that Daniel Jones is going to have to his disposal. So
I'm just saying, odds are that's not going to happen. But if they still do,
why not? Why wouldn't Pitts will be there? Pitt will be there.
No, I mean for Smith, I'm saying if they pass on Smith.
Honestly, I think Pitt is going to be better than all of those guys.
He could be. I very much could be. Like I said, he's the best college tight end I've ever seen in my, 13 years or so watching college football. He's the best I've seen. And I know everyone was raving about Hawkinson a couple of years ago.
He's more of like a wide receiver. Anyways.
He is. And he's a fantastic route runner, great possession guy, can move around him. He did have a little injury issues. That's the only thing that concerns me. But it seems like every tight end has injury issues. So you got to gamble at that point. I would love Pitts. I like Smith a little more, but I would love Pitts too for the value at 11.
I believe Pitts will fall to them.
I think Pitts will definitely be there just because a lot of teams in the top 10 I don't think have the leeway to go after a tight end, where teams like the Panthers, obviously, they either take a quarterback or they're going to take defense. Detroit, the same kind of thing. They don't really need tight ends. Mm-hmm. The Broncos drafted a young one in Font a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So they're not going to do it. So, yeah, I definitely could see him fall, kind of like what you saw when everyone was raving about O.J. Howard in 2017. Everyone thought he was like a top 5 prospect, and he fell all the way to 19.
I think he fits like a glove with the Giants. And if they decide they don't want to bring Evan Ingram back, he goes right in. He fills right in, and he's a much more talented player than Evan Ingram.
Way more talented.
I mean, you can use him in so many different schemes. He can block. He could be used as a wide receiver. He's your number one. He becomes your number one wide receiver. He's your number one option. It's not going to be Kenny Galladay. It will be Pitts. That's who it will be. So, to me, the Giants are set up pretty well. And because of the quarterback draft, this class being that the quarterbacks are going to be drafted early, a lot of players are going to fall out of the top 10. A lot of players might fall all the way to the 20s. I'm talking about some really, really top 10 talent falling into the 20s. You're talking about the Jets have an opportunity at 23 to get a top 10 talent. So Jamal Adams, eat your heart out. So I mean, there's just so many things that could happen now because there's so many. These 5 quarterbacks are going. They're arguing and back and forth on who needs a quarterback and who's going to fill it because the next 2 years of the quarterback value in those classes are terrible.
And it hasn't been that bad in terms of projected value since the 2013 draft. The greatness of guys like E.J. Manuel and Geno Smith.
Oh, God.
Exactly.
Oh, God.
Like that. Those are what was thought of as the top prospects.
Oh,
And,
my God.
like everybody knew that class would be bad.
Terrible.
And next year's class might be like that kind of thing where they
Next
just
2
know-
years. They're
Yeah.
saying the next 2 years.
Yeah, it's very possible that it's that bad. Like, you always have your question marks on certain guys, but not a whole class like that.
They're saying the next 2 years there's no first-round draft pick of quarterbacks, and if you do draft a quarterback in the first round in the next 2 years, you're probably going to get a bust. Okay, that's what people are saying. That's what analysts. That's what college scouts are saying. So that's why everybody's trying to jump up. That's why San Francisco jumped up to 3 because they know they don't stand a chance without a young quarterback that they could build their team around in that kind of offense, in a Kyle Shanahan offense.
Have fun, Texans.
That's another team. But here's the thing: the Texans might win on this whole thing with Deshaun Watson because there's quite
would take a
possibly
miracle.
a lot of teams might be passing up on Deshaun Watson and waiting for this case to kind of calm down.
information, yeah.
And it might, to me, you're talking about Deshaun Watson playing another year with the Texans, a team that's not going to be good, don't have any weapons, and he's gonna have to show himself again this year with an offensive line that's really garbage, an offense that's really, really garbage, and a defense that's really gone. I mean, gone. And I believe they're going to trade Merciless before the draft because I think a lot of teams are going to be interested in a pass rusher.
Yeah, Zach Cunningham's a nice middle linebacker. Justin Reed, a young safety. I think a lot of those guys could be gone.
Yeah, I just think that the Texans are rebuilding. I think because of what Deshaun Watson did or he didn't do, he cost himself an opportunity to be picked up by a team like the Jets or Miami. I think that the Miami Dolphins have the best chance to get him, and I think Miami's still interested in making a move for him. I really do, especially making that trade with San Francisco and really solidifying their draft stock where they have 5 first-round draft picks in the next 2 years. That says to me that if they want Deshaun Watson, they can get him. So, and I do believe that out of all the teams, I think the Jets are pretty much straightforward. They're going to draft Zack Wilson. Zack Wilson's their guy. So, the Jets might have to deal with Josh Allen, might have to deal with Deshaun Watson, and might have to deal with quite possibly, not Cam Newton, but Matt Ryan or one of these other quarterbacks, one of these veteran quarterbacks in the very near future in probably the hardest division in football. That's how they have to be very sure that Zack Wilson is their guy and he's their future and he's going to be an elite quarterback. Because if he isn't, that could set the team back significantly.
AFC East, the best division in football.
Best division
I never
in
thought
football.
anyone would ever say that.
Just think about it. Deshaun Watson goes to Miami. Josh Allen is on Buffalo. Zack Wilson is on the Jets. And let's say Jimmy Garoppolo next year is on the Patriots. How could you not say that's not the best division of football?
No, I'm not denying that. I just it's just so,
How could
sounds
you not
so
argue
weird
that?
to see.
I mean, just think about it. You talk about the AFC and how dominant the NFC has been the last couple of years, and really the last 10 years. I really believe it's going to start to turn to the AFC because of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Oakland Raiders, that division with the Broncos, the talent that they have.
I don't know what the Raiders are doing, but
Well,
okay.
they still have Derek Carr and they still have John Gruden.
For
and,
now.
and how about the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns up and coming? I mean, the AFC is going to be a lot, and Cincinnati with Joe Burrows and the way they're gonna rebuild that team. I think the AFC eventually is going to be the NFC of the last 10 years, and the dominance of the AFC. There's just a lot of talented teams, really a lot of talented teams, and even don't forget about Justin Herbert either, who I think is going to be a sensational quarterback.
Oh, the Chargers are talented. They just love to lose close games in weird ways.
Well, again, you're talking about. I think the AFC has the best young quarterback class in all of football. They do. And Trevor Lawrence is coming to the AFC. You got Trevor Lawrence. There's a good chance that Well, Justin Fields is going to stay in the NFC. He'll probably go into the NFC, but you have Trevor Lawrence, Zack Wilson. You have
any quarterback the Patriots could draft.
Any quarterback. You're going to have Justin Herbert. You're going to have Pittsburgh's going to be looking for a quarterback, but you're going to have Lamar Jackson. You're going to have Joe Burrows. I mean, you're talking about some of the best young quarterbacks in the league in the AFC, and that's why I said the AFC East is going to be the best division in football in the next 3 years. I've said it, and I'll say it again. Remember, I said it. It is going to be the best division in football, and there's no argument to that with those quarterbacks in that division. Even if Tua is in that division and not Deshaun Watson, if Tua becomes anywhere close to the player that anybody thought he was going to be, that's going to be one of the hardest divisions to play in. Mm-hmm. So Tom Brady was very, very smart coming and getting out of that division. As slow as he did, because if you think about it now, Tom Brady is not anywhere close to the best quarterback in that division if he was still in that division. So it's crazy. It really is. So
AFC East, best division.
Yes.
In my time, never would have thought hearing that with how dysfunctional Miami was, and how average Buffalo was,
and how bad the Jets
and how bad the Jets were.
How bad the Jets have been. I mean, so you just think about the class and where the class is going and where it's moving. It's been sensational. It really is. It's remarkable where these teams, being that all these organizations besides the Patriots have been so bad all these years and have tried quarterback after quarterback after quarterback every single year. Finally, maybe these organizations will figure things out.
Yeah, and to some extent, a lot of the overall organizations that were considered dysfunctional for a long time, besides the Jaguars, I still don't know what they're doing half the time, but the Browns are not dysfunctional. The Raiders, who knows? But
the Browns are my sleeper.
Mm-hmm.
The Browns are my sleeper this year in the AFC. I think they're dangerous. I think they're very talented. Their free agents offseason was one of the best, I believe. And I think they still have a lot of draft stock that they've kept on. I think they have 10 picks this year. I think the Browns are going to be dangerous. And Baker Mayfield made a statement last year. He did in the playoffs especially. He showed that he can win in the playoffs. And he almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Snug says, yay for the AFC East. Only took 20 years to come around.
I know.
Yeah,
crazy.
Pretty much.
It's crazy. It really is. But it took a long time. But the AFC East is right there where a lot of people, a lot of fans wanted to see it. Competitive. And Bill Belichick's got his work cut out for him. I think he's still the best coach in the NFL. There's no question that he is. He's going to have to figure out what he's going to do at the quarterback play. And I know the Patriots reached out to the Jets about Sam Darnold. The only way the Patriots get Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold gets traded to another team, and then another team trades him to the Patriots. But I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. And could you imagine the Jets have to deal with Sam Darnold for the next 10, 12 years? I wouldn't want to see that. I wouldn't want to see that.
That would create a very fierce rivalry.
Oh, yes. It would cause a lot of stir. It would. And I don't want to see it. But it could happen.
It could happen. It was just usually the general vicinity of everybody hates the Patriots, and then that would actually get more personal if that ended up happening. I know the Patriots have stolen other players from the Jets in the past, but nothing to the magnitude of what a young franchise quarterback would be.
And Snug says, I think Bill will be just fine. I don't know about that. They need a quarterback. They've been looking for a quarterback. They re-signed Cam Newton, okay? They re-signed. There were Patriot fans saying that they would do anything. They'd put a kid behind the line of scrimmage than Cam Newton.
The play 60 kid.
Yeah. They'd rather somebody like a video game player play at the position than Cam Newton. Okay? So again,
the play 60 kid will finally get his wish.
Going into the season, there's no sure thing at the quarterback position for the New England Patriots. But there's a sure thing, as far as I'm concerned, there's a sure thing right now with the Buffalo Bills. We have to see if Deshaun Watson gets traded to Miami. I don't know if it's a sure thing yet in Miami. And right now, if Zack Wilson, where everybody's saying, Keyshawn Johnson said Zack Wilson's the next Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's saying that Zack Wilson is the next Patrick Mahomes. And if he is and he's going to the Jets, I'll be a very happy guy. But knowing as a Jet fan for that to be true, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Because every single guy the Jets have brought in where everybody says he's going to be a generation or a franchise quarterback, none of them have panned out. None of them.
But the Jets have also drafted unconventionally at times, too, though.
I mean, Sam Darnold is a franchise quarterback. I'm telling you, wherever he goes, and that's why I think teams should be lining up for him. He is a perfect piece to go to Seattle. If Seattle really wants to get rid of Russ, I would do everything I can to make a move for Sam Darnold. Put him as your backup, and then you trade Russ at the end of this year if you think that Russ is not going to stay there. You have your future quarterback. And Pete Carroll loves Sam Darnold. So the Bears, too. The Broncos, the Panthers, all of them.
The USC connections 15 years apart.
I mean, even Atlanta. Even Atlanta right now, if they don't want to draft a quarterback, they want to make a move for Sam Darnold. They can get Sam for a second-round draft.
Yeah, especially if they trade back. I could see that.
I would do that. I would do that if I was Atlanta. Sit him behind Matt Ryan for a year, and then you have your quarterback. So I think there's a lot of things, and anybody that's coming out and saying that Sam Darnold is not worth more than a third or fourth round pick, I'm guaranteeing you guys the Jets are going to get a second round pick. Guaranteeing it. What is Snug saying?
If every talented comes into the Jets, talented of what? I don't know, but and washes out, it's possible it's the organization. Yeah, sure. We've known that for a while.
The organization's been crap. It's been a terrible organization, terrible run organization. I'm a Jet fan. I'll be the first person to tell you. But I think they've got things on straight. I really do. I think Joe Douglas knows what he's doing. I think Robert Saleh is a smart guy. I think he's going to be a very good coach for the Jets, and I think he's going to push some of these young players to do the things that he expects them to do. And he's very enthusiastic. And Mike LaFleur is going. A lot of people think he's going to be the next superstar offensive coordinator that's going to get a head coaching job in the NFL in the very near future. So
he'll be the next head coach of the Seahawks.
Could be, could very much be. He could be.
And the Jets will hire Pete Carroll as defensive coordinator.
Nah, he's going to retire. He's the oldest coach in the NFL.
I'm kidding.
So I think Pete Carroll has another 2-3 good years left, and I think he's done. But I think it's going to be a very interesting next couple of weeks because being that the Jets have Sam Darnold dangling, they have a lot of options. They really do. Believe it or not, the Jets are in a better position than a lot of teams because they got the number 2 pick where they're going to get Zack Wilson, and they have a number 1 quarterback in Sam Darnold that they can dangle around and get as much back as they can for him. And they're, like I said, the next 2 years, the draft stock of quarterbacks are garbage. So the Jets have a position, and they set themselves in a position to be very successful. What did you
says Pete Carroll is the only person in the league older than Matt Ryan.
Probably. Him and Bill Belichick. I mean, Bill Belichick is the second oldest coach in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's going to be a very, very interesting next couple of weeks before the draft, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be really, really funny, especially for the Jets, because you saw what San Francisco did. They made a splash. You saw what Philadelphia did. They made a splash, and you know what Miami's trying to do.
They got hit with a tidal wave.
Well, they tried to make a splash, and hopefully they make the right decision. I do believe they're going to do everything they can to draft a wide receiver at number 12. I think they were very stupid, being that they were sitting at 6, and they could have taken their pick on the wide receiver.
I've defended their GM for a while, but I don't know what he's been doing.
They wanted that
extra.
They wanted that extra first round draft pick.
All right, well, you better hope those receivers are anywhere close to what Chase or Devontae Smith could be.
I don't know where Chase is going to go, but one of these guys might fall out of the top 10.
I think Chase will end up in Detroit if he falls to Detroit because they love big-bodied receivers.
Well, he's not that tall. He's 6 foot, right?
But he's physical for his size, though, and he can make those tough catches.
Interesting.
So I think if Chase ends up falling to 7 and because there's rumors Cincinnati could take him to reunite him with Burrow. I think they'll take Sewell.
It's not a bad idea.
But there's been rumors of that too. But I think if he falls,
I never even thought of that. That's a good idea.
It's coming up a lot. I'm seeing it because of the connections with those two. Because it's the same thing with Miami drafting Devontae Smith to go with Tua. So that rumor is coming up.
Cincinnati can get an offensive tackle in the second round. I mean, there's a lot of depth in this draft. You don't need Sewell to solidify that offensive line. You can get Leatherwood early in the second round. Leatherwood's going to fall out of the first round. I mean, you can get a right tackle, and Williams could be your left tackle.
The thing is, though, do they really need receivers, though, Cincinnati? Higgins was a nice young player for them last year, and Tyler Boyd's still good. I don't think they really need it as badly as people think, though, even though they're keep mocking Chase. Now, Chase is going to be way better than those guys, but I still think in terms of the offensive line being so bad, they still need to go Sewell.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very, very interesting in the next couple of weeks on some of these teams, and who's going to trade out, who's going to trade up. I think there's a lot more trades that are going to happen that we're going to be very, very surprised about moving forward. When we come back, NBA conversation. The Brooklyn Nets, are they buying a championship or a way to the NBA championship? I'm going to get into why I believe they are and why I think there's a lot of teams that are going to be out to take them out early in the playoffs. When we come back, I will get into that and my thoughts on why the New York Knicks didn't make a move at the trade deadline here on the great Down to the Wire.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to Down to the Wire on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Down to the Wire. Might be the last week for our show, Down to the Wire. We will have our new show, The Sports Loudmouths, on Wednesdays and Thursdays from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. It is going to be a great finishing touch of our network every Wednesday and Thursday, and it's going to be very, very funny. It's going to be a very good content. We're going to have two new guys on our show. A lot of banter, a lot of arguing, a lot of crap. So definitely stay tuned for the show every single Wednesdays and Thursdays, The Sports Loudmouths. With me, Speedy Petey, Ike Feldman, and Mr. Joshua Silverberg. A bunch of Jewish guys. So that'll be interesting. Back and forth bantering. What do you think, Speedy? You think that's going to be funny?
Am I the only non-Jewish guy?
I think you are. I mean, I have Jewish blood in me. So.
I know you do. I don't know about Ike. I've never met him.
He's Jewish. Okay. He's Jewish, and so is Josh, and I have some Jewish blood in me. So there you go. So you have the colossal connections. Anyways.
Nice. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah, there you go. Remember, you can listen to the show every single Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can call us at 631-500-0548, and you can go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com. Download our app on iOS, which is WWSR, and Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Who do I sound like? A little Vince McMahon there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Wow, you're fired. You like that? Could I say that to you? Can I smack you around a couple of times on live radio? Do you think people will enjoy that? How about pulling your pants over your head or your underwear over your head? Do you think people will enjoy that?
Sadly,
Giving you a wedgie,
I think they would.
Wedgie, maybe tie you to a pole or something. I think people will really enjoy that.
Sadly, they probably would.
I would enjoy it.
We know.
Anyways, what is CJ saying over here?
It would be the organization if the coaching staff is not putting the players to be in the best position to be successful. I think he's referring to the Patriots because he's arguing with Snug. So maybe they're having a little debate in the comment section.
I'm just kidding. I like messing around with Speedy, and I like making do it one time for us. Debate wars.
Debate wars.
Oh God, scare me here. Anyways, I want to get into. Wow, what is this saying?
It's gonna be an NC-17 show. I wouldn't put anything past it, Snug.
Only Snug. Anyways, I want to get into the Brooklyn Nets, and I know a lot of fans are not very happy with the organization, being that you brought in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant in a year's time. They bring in James Harden. They trade away all the youth that they really have built over the last couple of years. When Sean Marks came to the organization and said, I'm going to build around the draft, I'm going to build around the youngsters. Well, he lied. He got rid of all his Karis LeVert and Allen and practically eventually next year they're going to probably get rid of Spencer Dinwiddie. They're not bringing him back.
Right.
You're bringing about a bunch of veterans and you're trying to buy a championship, as you can see. You talk about, and we can argue our points about a guy, what's his name again, who just signed, not LaMarcus Aldridge. Blake Griffin before the All-Star game.
Errol's two favorite power forwards from 3 years ago.
Honestly, I think he's one of the most overrated players in the NBA. I never liked Blake Griffin. The guy is a terrible perimeter shooter. He's a decent foul shooter now, a free throw shooter that we've seen when he came into the league. He was always a dunker. That's all he was. And now you bring him to the team. He's not a good rebounder for a guy his size. He's not good on the boards. LaMarcus Aldridge is good on the boards, but he's not as good as he was when he played for Portland or when he went to the Spurs as young as he was. So, again, you look at where, by the way, Snug says just in the Nets signed Jason Kidd. I wouldn't be surprised about that.
I don't know. Steve Nash would have a word about that.
Well, Steve Nash probably would come out of retirement and be the point guard if you really look at it. But, I mean,
maybe they'll get Deron Williams back.
Yeah, you got a rookie coach. You bring Amari Stoudemire, a rookie assistant coach who made no sense. You bring in a guy who, and you know who I'm talking about, who is an offensive-minded coach who's never been successful, never went to an NBA championship. All those years with the good Phoenix Suns teams, and all those years with going to the Rockets and coaching the Knicks. All these teams that he's coached, he's never been to an NBA championship.
Maybe they'll bring Sean Marion out of retirement, too.
What is CJ saying over there?
Did they include a bonus for his Walker?
Who knows? Antoine Walker. He needs the money. I mean, he's practically spent it all away in the casinos. Antoine Walker would come back. Why not? Make a couple of $1 million.
I think he was referring to Jason Kidd, but I mean, Jason Kidd just coached with Milwaukee, so I think he's still somewhat in shape.
I thought he started talking about Antoine Walker, but I understand what he meant by Walker now. Mm-hmm. But again, I look at LaMarcus Aldridge. I was very surprised that I love LaMarcus Aldridge. I have always liked LaMarcus Aldridge when he came from the Portland Trailblazers. It would have made more sense that he fit with Portland, going back to Portland. I think they need rebounding.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I think him with Damian Lillard and another offensive player that can give you 13, 14 points off the bench, that could have been a nice fit with them, with Carmelo Anthony coming off the bench for the second tier or second bunch of guys coming off the bench. The depth. I think that would have made more sense. The fact that he went to the Brooklyn Nets, he's chasing a championship. And let's say the Brooklyn Nets don't win a championship this year. They got to re-sign James Harden. And they're not going to be able to bring LaMarcus Aldridge back. He's going to want money. And you're not going to be able to bring back a guy like Blake Griffin. He's going to want money. These guys are still fairly young. LaMarcus Aldridge is 32. Blake Griffin is 31. These guys could still play where they can give you 14, 15 points, Speedy.
Yeah. Now, here's the question. If the Nets didn't win a championship this year, where does it rank among the biggest championship failures of super teams?
As bad as the Miami Heat did when the first year when LeBron James went over there. That was bad. When they lost against Dallas in the championship, that was bad.
Yeah, because not only was it bad, they got destroyed in most of those games. Mm-hmm. Dallas was a team that they beat the Lakers and they beat the Thunder. Give them a lot of credit for that, but on paper they weren't an amazing roster. So I guess it would depend on who the Nets would lose to in that case. If the Nets maybe lost to a 6 seed or something in the West, or even they lost to a young team that maybe doesn't have the finals experience. But yeah, it definitely could be up there with the, I guess, starting talent that they have.
I mean, when I heard LaMarcus Aldridge was going to the Nets, my underwear got into my ass. Okay, I was so pissed off. I wasn't happy. I posted something on Instagram. On my Instagram. I just, to me, and I don't post anything, by the way. I'm not a social media
Did you
guy.
Post on your Twitter for the first time in 6 months?
No, but I have to start using my Twitter. Do you know I have 1,800 people following me?
I know. It's amazing. It's amazing all the followers you have.
Isn't that crazy? I have 1,800 people that follow me, and I barely post anything. John Ferris says Lillard, Aldridge, and McMullen.
I'm referring to the typo McCollum. Yeah.
McCollum would have been better and would have been good. Man. And I think so, too.
I think played with each other, yeah.
I think it would have made more sense for Damian Lillard to go over there. I mean, not Damian Lillard. I'm sorry, LaMarcus Aldridge. I think it would have fit better over there with Portland. Now, and I think he would have fit better in Miami. I thought it was a foregone conclusion after they made that trade for Victor Oladipo. That's where LaMarcus Aldridge was going. And I thought, hey, Miami is going to be a dangerous team. Miami is going to be the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. Now you see LaMarcus Aldridge goes to a team like the Brooklyn Nets where you're not going to touch the ball that much. You're not going to see the ball, especially if Kevin Durant comes back. It made no sense. It didn't make any sense. Now, he does add size. He does add rebounding. But all 4 of these guys, 5 of these guys are going to demand the ball, Speedy. All of them.
I don't know if Aldridge is as much of the type that Eddie Moore is going to be the type that demands the ball.
He's going to want it.
Definitely Blake Griffin because of his offensive prowess. Obviously, we know DeAndre Jordan won't, but the other 3 we know will. Kevin Durant can still play without it, but he's still going to want to touch it.
Of course he is.
And of course we know James Harden will.
You're not going to win. You're not going to win without Kevin Durant shooting the ball. I'm telling you
No,
right now.
he just needs to need the ball.
James
for
Harden
3
is
seconds.
a terrible playoff player.
Right. I just think Kevin Durant won't need to ball handle for 8 seconds like James Harden and Kyrie Irving will on every possession.
And by the way, John Ferris says the Lakers getting Drummond was good too. Yes, they needed a big man, and Drummond so talented. The Lakers got to do everything they can in the offseason to re-sign a guy like Andre Drummond, because you can win a championship after adding Andre Drummond. If you get Anthony Davis back healthy and LeBron James, you're the favorites to coming out of the West. You're the favorites to win the whole thing again. Because they have the depth. They added Schroeder in the offseason. They added the pieces they needed to add. They have shooters on the perimeter. They're a very good all-around defensive team when LeBron James is on the court. I still think the Lakers are the better team now that they added
when healthy, yes.
Drummond.
I agree. When healthy, they are. Just a matter of how LeBron's going to be. He usually recovers fine. But Anthony Davis, again, this is his first time with that significant of an injury. How it'll affect someone his size is another question coming back, especially in the playoffs, which Davis did do well in the playoffs last year, so I'll give him credit on that. It's just going to be hard to see off that injury. I'm not worried about LeBron as much. And again, we'll have to see with this other depth, this new depth. The chemistry's been very good so far, but again, coming together in the playoffs will be another question for them too.
They've won it already, and they're all pretty much the same players except maybe 3 or 4 players. I mean, this is a championship team. You still have the core of your players still on the team, and LeBron James. Rondo's not there anymore, but you have a core players, and you have LeBron James, and LeBron James takes it to a whole nother level. Adding Andre Drummond, a guy that really has never played in the playoffs consistently. Andre Drummond is a guy that I want to see in the playoffs, but you put him, your 2 big men, Anthony Davis and Andre Drummond, as your big men on the court with LeBron James. Who's going to out-rebound them? Andre Drummond is the best offensive rebounder in the league. The league. Anthony Davis is, I think, 2nd or 3rd. You have the 2 best offensive rebounders on one team. And by the way, you have LeBron James, which is not too shabby either. What is John Ferris saying?
What pieces are the Knicks going to need in the offseason?
That's a good question, John. And I wanted to get into the New York Knicks. And by the way, the Brooklyn Nets are trying to buy the championship, and it's a shame.
That's inevitable.
It's a shame what they're doing, and I think that the league and Adam Silver needs to figure this out, because this is not fair. When you look at the league and the dimensions of where the league is been the last couple of years, what should the Knicks do? There's a lot of things the Knicks could do. And I think that the Knicks, being that they have $40 million under the salary cap, they can bring in 2 superstar players to come and play with Julius Randle. What I would do is I would extend Julius Randle in the offseason, make him happy, give him the $100 million contract he deserves. You can give Julius Randle 130, 140. I think Julius Randle will take that, being that he loves New York, making $23 million. This is his first year as a superstar. I think if the Knicks can give him that extension right now, he's not going to demand that $200 million contract that he might try to demand next year when he becomes a free agent.
Yeah.
So extend him in the offseason and then go after a Bradley Beal. That's what I think the Knicks need to do. Go after that other superstar. Now, you're going to probably have to put Quigley involved in the trade or an Obi Toppin. I still think Obi is going to be a good player in this league when they give him a chance to step on the court. I think Julius Randle has become the leader of this team. Or wait another season. If Phoenix gets knocked out early in the playoffs this year, what quite possibly could happen, there are stories coming out that Devin Booker wants out. He wanted out last year. He wants out of Phoenix. And I think Devin Booker, being that his agent is now the GM of the New York Knicks, or the president of the New York Knicks. Wesley was one of the guys that scouted a guy of that, a guy like Devin Booker. And by the way, Payne, who scouted him, who brought him to the Kentucky Wildcats, is the assistant coach of the New York Knicks. And by the way, shout out to Mike Woodson. Congratulations to Mike Woodson on getting a head coaching job for Indiana University. I think that was a great move by Indiana, a defensive-minded coach of that magnitude. Mike Woodson will still be on the bench of the New York Knicks until the season is over, which has come out and he has come out and said. But congratulations to one of the best defensive minds in the NBA right now. So, but getting back, Bradley Beal would be the biggest possible move. Also, a guy like John Wall. John Wall, you won't have to give up much to get. I think the fact that he still has another 2 years on his contract, I think Houston is going to try to rebuild. I think if the Knicks give away 1 first-round draft pick for a John Wall, I think that will be enough. Maybe giving a player like a Kevin Knox and a John Wall will seal the deal Kevin Knox and a first-round draft pick. That could seal the deal, and you can get your future point guard right there. Yeah. And you keep Derrick Rose for another year because he's under contract.
The Rockets are definitely rebuilding at this point, so it's only a matter of time until Wall's going to want out of there too, because obviously he only has a couple of years left that he could play, and yeah, that's definitely a possibility with the Knicks needing a point guard.
You reading what John Ferris is saying?
Booker, Beal, Randall, our big three. That would be sweet.
It would be sweet. I don't know if they could afford all of them.
Yeah, I think, again, Beal is probably the most likely in terms of...
Unless you get Randall on a cheap. Now, if they re-sign, this would be so substantial for the New York Knicks to do this. Sign Julius Randle in the offseason. Give him an extension. Give him a 4-year extension to his contract from that 1-year contract. Give him $140, $130 million. Then you, not this year, not next year, but the year after, you will be able to bring in a Bradley Beal and a Devin Booker and have those 3 guys as your top 3 guys. That could possibly happen. And you might be able to keep Quigley and R.J. Barrett. You need to keep R.J. Barrett. You cannot trade R.J. Barrett. The growth of what this kid has become and what he's going to become. You don't even need Booker, Beal, and Randall. You really need, you can have Barrett, Beal, and Randall, or Barrett, Booker, and Randall. You don't really need all 3 of these guys to win a championship. You really don't. And Robinson, even though he broke his foot now, and I feel so bad for Mitchell Robinson. I don't know if the Knicks are going to move on from him, but he can't stay healthy.
Yeah, he's going to lose a lot of value just because of these injuries. So
he can't stay healthy.
They're going to have to hang on to him, but maybe as a third or something piece in a trade for that magnitude.
Yes.
Could be, but again, it's not going to be a focal point like we thought of in previous years. In terms of Beal, it definitely is also something where the value could continue to drop as the years goes on.
Absolutely.
If Washington continues to struggle or even just struggle to build a culture even there. And
he said he doesn't want to leave Washington. I think it's a crock of you-know-what.
Yeah, I don't know if he necessarily is forcing his way out, but he has that thought on his mind. Whether it's this year or even in the future, the remaining of his contract, it still could very much happen because they've been such an on and off team. It looked like they were progressing nicely last year, and then they fell apart once the bubble came around, and now this year they're I think the 3rd worst team in the East right now. So their window is definitely shut at this point, and Beal's going to definitely keep that in mind whether it's this year or in the remainder of his contract at some point. And if that happens, the value is going to drop where the Knicks might not have to trade as much as they thought.
I think it makes more sense to make a move for a Devin Booker than a Bradley Beal. I think Bradley Beal is going to cost a little bit more than Devin Booker right now because Bradley Beal has set back and said he wants to be there. Now, Devin Booker, he might force his way out of Phoenix. And if he does that, you can get him on the cheap. You can get him on the cheap because if he's forcing his way out, just like James Harden. Now, James Harden, the Nets did the wrong thing. They could have sat back and just waited, and then they would have gotten James Harden on a cheaper because he probably would have sat out or he would have done something. What's going on?
Says, I wish the Wizards would change their name to the Washington basketball team.
And by the way, John Ferris says R.J. Barrett's game is growing. He's only going to get better. He's getting better. Just think about it. He's been in the league for 2 years. R.J. Barrett was averaging almost 14 points a game last year, 13.8. This year, he's averaging 18 point something. Next year, he'll be averaging 23, 24. This is a kid he's still 20 years old, 21 years old. He's still growing into his body. This kid's going to be a 25-10 guy. That's how good he is. And you don't really need to go after another superstar. And I'm not trading away any of the guys that are Knicks that we drafted. They're Knicks. They're guys that we're developing. I'm not trading guys that we're developing.
Yeah, if you're going to trade somebody, too, it'd probably be one of the newer rookies this year or, again, some of the ones from the past. Because Barrett is a very different skill-wise than Booker and Beal in terms of his biggest strengths. Now, obviously, Barrett could do a lot of different things, and obviously Booker and Beal could do a lot of different things. But Booker and Beal are both tremendous shooters, whereas Barrett's an improving shooter, but he's not to that level
much
yet.
Improved.
But
much improved.
In terms of an attacking guard, attacking wing type player, he's better and only going to get better with that than Booker and Beal were at the beginning of their careers, that second year in the league. So
just imagine how good R.J. Barrett's going to be 5 years from now.
Yeah, the counter game plan type approach where both of them could be on the court and do different things matters too when it comes to a championship caliber team. I know it's a shooting league and everyone has to shoot, but you still need guys that could do a little bit of everything.
He draws fouls every time he goes to the hole.
Yes, and if he improves his free throw shooting like he's done this year, even more, even when it's just to get to like a 77 or something like that %, that's going to be very big for his game too. So the counter game plan of it aspect in terms of getting a team that could do a lot of different things, especially with a great coach like Thibodeau, is going to make a difference too. That's why I think Quickly is probably going to be the most likely trade piece if they were to start with a Booker or a Beal type trade, especially with Beal, because I think that Quickly could be developed into who is very similar to Beal the most.
And don't forget about Damian Lillard, because if Damian Lillard doesn't get over the hump and this team doesn't go to a championship in the next year or two, he might want his way out too. Portland, and there are stories. He loves his music. He's a rapper. His album came out. Being that it's New York, he might want to come here and try to win a championship with the Knicks. If the Knicks are a good team and Tom Thibodeau really gets this team moving like a train. So, and they're doing that. By the way, John Ferris says Oregon State and Houston are on right now. Yes, and we have the game on as we speak, and the Knicks game starts in a few minutes too. So I'm going to be watching the Knicks game too. There's a lot of games on tonight. But by the way, my Baylor, and we're going to get into the NCAA tournament. Baylor is moving on to the Elite Eight, which I expected, which is tonight, by the way.
Yep. 9:57 Eastern time start with Baylor and Arkansas.
Yep.
That was really the only one region that was straightforward. Everything else had a lot of wackiness.
Baylor if Baylor knocks off Arkansas, Baylor wins the whole thing. I've told you guys this, and I believe Baylor's going to win the whole thing. I think they're that good, and they're playing great defense right now. The last 3-2 defense, zone defense that's still in the tournament, and I think they're going to be able to – and their defense is what won them the game last night.
Yeah, that was a sloppy game.
Yes.
Believe me.
But it was their defense, and everybody that says they're not a defensive team. John Ferris says Lillard will definitely want out, and I believe that too. I absolutely believe that too. Damian Lillard, this is a make-or-break year for Damian Lillard and the Portland Trailblazers, because if they don't somehow – and I don't think they're good enough. I don't. Nurkic is coming back. They added Fournier. Is it Fournier?
Celtics added Fournier. They added Norman Powell.
Norman Powell, who's another good player, a good wing player. If they don't get over the hump this year, and I just don't think they're beating the Lakers. Not after Andre Drummond went there. I'm very surprised Andre Drummond didn't think about going to Portland. I think he would have been a good fit over there too. The Nuggets got better this year at the trade deadline. They could be a dangerous team. You saw what they did in the playoffs last year. You know what the Clippers are. They got better. I mean, the Western Conference is stacked, and don't be surprised if Golden State sneaks in, which they probably will. They'll be a hard out too for that number one seed.
They need young players though to step up for the Warriors, because even though Steph Curry's still there and obviously Draymond's still there, they're getting younger in terms of what the team landscape.
They wanted to trade Wiseman at the trade deadline.
I know that, but
weird.
Now that they didn't, they're kind of stuck in that. Not stuck, but they're still in that younger identity where that's still going to be hard for them to do well in the playoffs.
Who were they going to get for Wiseman anyways? Did they think they were going to get Bradley Beal for him? I mean,
not just Wiseman. They needed more than that.
Oh, my God. They had to give up a hell of a lot more than that. I don't know what they were thinking they were going to get.
John says, imagine the draft that Portland passed on Durant. Yep.
We all know. Remember that draft?
Greg Oden.
But he wouldn't be on Portland anymore. Kevin Durant wouldn't be on Portland.
True.
Kevin Durant, he jumps franchises. After he thinks that he's won with one franchise, he tries to win with another one. Kevin Durant has not proven to me that he can win by himself or with just one superstar. He's got to have a ton of them. Okay? And that's what I'm going to say. Say whatever you want about LeBron James. You could say whatever you want. There are only two superstars on that LA Laker team. Only two. Anthony Davis and him. Andre Drummond is not a superstar. He's a star. Right. That's all he is.
And again, if you're judging today's NBA, outside of maybe Kawhi Leonard with Toronto, who's really won alone at this point besides him and LeBron?
I know. And to me, it's just a completely a curveball right now when you look at the state of the NBA and where the NBA is. I don't like this playoff. What do they call this?
They're doing it like the bubble system last year.
I don't like it.
Except with less teams. There's not 12. There's 10 now. So it's 7 versus 10 and 8 versus 9 in the play-ins essentially. So it's like an added boost like you saw with the NCAA tournament with having the 68 teams instead of 64. So I guess it's similar to that. But because of the bubble success, they went for that. I don't love it. I don't like it either.
I hate it.
I always thought the NBA should reduce the playoff teams.
It's going to screw the Knicks. It's going to screw the Knicks.
I always thought that the NBA should reduce the playoffs teams. I think because of the league stresses load management so much, reward them for playing well in the regular season, then you get a rest. Make it a 16 playoffs like the NFL. Let the 1 and 2 seeds rest. They earned it. They earned their spots in the regular season, and then you'll get your load management, because a lot of fans don't like the load management either, and that would be the best way to reward the players.
Just think about it this way: the Knicks are barely. When you look at the right now, the Knicks are the 4th seed.
Yeah, 4 through 8 is really close.
Yeah, just think about it. Philadelphia is they're 1 game in first place. You have the Brooklyn Nets, you have Milwaukee, you have the Knicks, you have Charlotte that is only a half a game behind the Knicks. You have Atlanta, who's only a game and a half behind the Knicks. You have the Boston Celtics that are a game and a half behind the Knicks. And then you have Miami, which they're going to be a lot better. I'm telling you right now, watch out for Miami. And now that Karis LeVert is bad, I could see Indiana moving up and playing better basketball.
So you could actually see the Celtics miss the playoffs.
Who would have thought that the Toronto Raptors would fall out the way they did?
They're really bad. I think they're 2-14 or something their last 16 games. They've been really bad in the month of March.
And right now, Dallas is the 8th seed, but I think they'll fall out of that spot. I do, because the schedule is going to get harder. I think Memphis and Golden State, they're going to figure things out.
Yeah.
And I think Golden State.
Don't sleep on the Kings either.
No. I think eventually the Dallas Mavericks will be knocked out. San Antonio, the fact that they're the 7th seed, you really think they'll be fine?
They'll be fine at least making the playoffs. They're not going to go anywhere after that. They'll be pesky like they usually are, but I think these teams are just too stacked at the top of the West.
It really is. And I think that when you talk about Portland, they're matched up against the Clippers in the first round. And I don't be surprised if the Clippers don't knock them out. I mean, the Portland Trail Blazers don't knock out the Clippers.
Snug says the Sacramento Kings are ready to make an improbable run for the NBA title. # Team Buddy Hield.
He's not even their best player. Fox is.
Yes.
Fox is their best player.
Buddy Hield is mainly just a shooter.
Yes. Fox is a fantastic player. And I'll tell you this right now. A lot of teams are going to wish they didn't pass up on him. I mean,
I remember that draft. He was actually my number 1 prospect in that draft.
I remember when the Knicks wanted him. That was the draft of Ntilikina.
Yep, I badly wanted him.
And there were a lot of point guards drafted. Lonzo Ball was drafted before him. Now, I like Lonzo Ball. I think he's going to be a better player next year, especially with his efficiency as a three-point shooter. He's gotten better. He's a 38% three-point shooter. But he is not De'Aaron Fox. No. He's not. And maybe he will. I mean, he's still young. He's 23. Maybe he gets to that point. Who knows? He's got talent. We all know what he did on UCLA. But it's still a long way to go.
Yeah, Fox took him out in the tournament, though.
And you want to know where I think the Knicks could go? They can go with Lonzo Ball in the offseason. I could see that happening because they don't have to overpay Alonzo Ball. No. You really don't.
You want his crazy father here, too?
No, but I want his talents, and he already said that his father won't get involved with his game.
One will only hope.
Yeah. Well, his father hasn't really said. He's more up LaMelo's ass.
Well, yeah, but there's a difference between LeVar Ball with the Lakers and LeVar Ball with the Pelicans. Yeah. And then there would be an even bigger difference if he came to the New York media. Oh, my God.
To me, it's just it's a laugh. It's a laugh when you look at what's going on in professional basketball and how much of a joke it is.
John, to answer your question, it was Ntilikina.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. It was Ntilikina, and the Knicks got the other guy that everybody wanted the Knicks to sign. They got him in a trade with the Dallas Mavericks. Yep. And guess where he is right now? He's no longer with the Knicks.
With the Pistons now.
He's no longer with the Nets. He was traded for Rose. So there you go. So all the Knicks fans, a.k.a. Matty Caps, for years saying, we should have gotten him. We should have gotten him. Yeah, where is he? Ntilikina's
I liked him too with that draft.
And who's better? Ntilikina? Who's better? Ntilikina or him?
Ntilikina's been better, yeah, of course. But
what did I tell everybody?
I mainly wanted it because I also had 2 friends that were Mavericks.
What did I tell?
They all wanted Dennis Smith.
When Ntilikina was drafted by the Knicks, I told everybody that he was going to be better than Dennis Smith Jr. no matter what. And what is he? He's still with the Knicks. He actually started with the Knicks the last week and a half. Okay? So that tells you something. That's all I'm going to say about it. A guy that plays defense is a better guy that hogs the ball, can't shoot. Okay? And that's Dennis Smith Jr. He won't be in the NBA in the next 2 or 3 years. Overrated. Anyways,
shout out to Matty Caps. You were missed, bro.
Yeah, missed on his craziness. Anyways, I will say this. What we saw at the trade deadline really stuck out to me because of what these players are doing and how they're demanding themselves out of the franchise that they're playing for. And to me, I think the NBA needs to figure something out. They really need to figure this out because it's ruining basketball. It's hurting basketball. And I don't want to hear that you're going to blame LeBron James. It's LeBron James's fault. It's not LeBron James's fault. It's It's all these NBA superstars that are not looking at the game and they're looking at the game to be, there should be enemies. There should be rivalries in the NBA, and there's just not anymore. There really isn't. Who is it? The Lakers and who? Who's rivaling the Lakers? The
Basically,
Clippers?
everybody versus LeBron, everybody versus the Warriors when they were as dominant as they were. Yeah,
And they'll be good next year, the Warriors. They're going to get Klay Thompson back, hopefully. But are they going to be that much better than they are this year? That's the same freaking team.
Yeah, and Klay Thompson's somebody I don't know if he'll come back the same.
That's what I said. I don't know if this is going to be the same team. I think the run of the Golden State Warriors, and being that they're not going to get a top 10 pick this year because they're playing too good of basketball, and they're a lot worse teams right now. The Pelicans.
I mean, you never know what the NBA
Oklahoma City. I want to see Oklahoma City get the number 1 pick. I want to see that team rebuild, and they're going to be able to rebuild pretty quick.
Oklahoma State to Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
for Cade Cunningham, possibly if that happens.
I would love to see it.
Yeah,
I would love to see it. I don't know about Cade Cunningham. I'm not a big fan of his.
That's what would happen though if the Thunder
Yeah,
had
I
the
know.
number 1 pick.
I'm not a big fan of his.
It could.
He's not the best player in this year's draft.
Maybe not, but I'm just saying that would be if the Thunder were to take him.
I like the kid from USC.
Mobley. Yeah,
I like Mobley.
Yeah.
I like him a lot. I think he, to me, being that he averaged 25 and 10 this year in college basketball, he's my number 1 pick.
He's a great defender too.
He's my number 1 pick. That's who I draft as my number 1 pick. He's going in the top 3. He definitely is. And there are a lot of good there are a lot of good players in this year's draft. You're going to be able to get a player at the 14th and 15th spot. You're going to get a good player. And that's why that pick for the Dallas Mavericks is so very important for the Dallas Mavericks to fall out of that 8 spot, because that could give the Knicks an opportunity to get themselves a top 14 pick. And who knows, in the lottery, they could go from 14 to 3 or 4. So that could happen. And knowing the Knicks and how bad of luck they are, that might be a good luck year for the New York Knicks.
Snug says, I love LeBron James. I bought 3 off his rookie cards in 2003 for $10 each, and now they're worth $2,000 each.
There you go,
Snuggie.
Snuggie.
Breaks the points record. Very
Snuggie
good stuff.
Wuggy was a bear. Snuggie Wuggy has a lot of hair. There you go. Anyways.
He probably does.
Yes, he does. I know he does.
John says, remember that trade that was voided when Chris Paul was going to the Lakers? Why can't they do that with these players going to a teams if they want to go to
I agree.
void it? Yeah,
agree.
That's actually a good thought.
David Stern.
Yeah.
David Stern.
Yeah, because a lot of it is because they're not trades. Maybe they can't veto it technically, but yeah, maybe something like that.
Or the owners. The owners could veto it. That's what I want to see. Maybe the owners could veto it if they don't agree with it, if it affects the league.
Right.
I don't agree with this. I think it's ruined the game of basketball. It's hurt the game of basketball. It really has.
Yeah, again, it's going to be hard to do it because the players have gotten this kind of connection.
Control of the league. That's what they got.
That's something that definitely has to be considered, though, in order to improve parity. Now, the NBA might not embrace it as much because the NBA, the way they're gaining popularity is through these star players. Errol and I say it all the time. There are a lot of player fans in the league, and even international fans now.
It's all player fans. There's no team fans
because of
anymore.
respective countries. With
fantasy,
Nikola Jokic and Giannis and guys like that. They're getting international fan bases. Luka Doncic.
Yep.
It's because of that. So I don't know how much they would embrace it. I think it needs to happen too, John. I think they should have some kind of more system that makes it, you can reward great players, kind of like maybe with what baseball does, where you still reward great players, but you still have to build in a certain sense. So maybe if they had some kind of minor league system, if they had some kind of maybe stricter salary cap or roster constructions, but
salary cap, that's what you should do.
Well, they have it. The problem is it's just so lenient.
You can't have more than 2 $30 million players on your team. That's what I think the league needs to do. And a lot of these players and a lot of these teams are going to see that, and these players are going to want their money because it's all about money. Don't let the players fool you. It's all about the money in their pocket and what kind of endorsements they're going to get. Being that the league is completely changed and it's not like the big cities anymore, all these teams can give you the big type of money, that $30 million, $35 million contract, $40 million contract. So now these players are staying with their respectable teams, or going to these small teams and trying to band together to win championships,
right?
Which has affected the game and affected the league. And it has nothing to do with LeBron James. I'm so sick and tired of listening to people blame LeBron James. It's the league. It's the GMs. It's the ownership. It's obviously the commissioner, who hasn't done a good job. He really hasn't. And that's saying a lot because I thought Adam Silver was the best commissioner in basketball. The best commissioner in all professional sports.
His competition's not very strong.
No, but you want to know something? You know who's looked better than ever is Gary Bettman. Gary Bettman, who I can't stand. Fans boo him every time you hear the name. I mean, I went to both drafts, working the press area. You know how many times it was so loud I couldn't even hear myself think when Gary Bettman was going up there in front of the audience. And now you're talking about him.
Oh, you didn't boo with them?
No.
Oh.
I don't give a shit. I was about to say it, but I don't give a crap. I really don't. I don't care about. Listen, as long as my team is playing good, it has nothing to do with Gary Bettman. Listen, I loved what he did in the playoff scheme that he had last year. Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was smart. I thought it was good. A 3-game playoff all the way to get into that top 8 seed. And I think that made the game much more interesting to play for and try to win. As you saw, the Rangers get swept. So
you don't think it was too many teams?
No, not at all. I think it was very fun to watch, and the NHL playoffs is the best to watch.
Oh, it definitely is. I'm just saying.
Exciting.
You had a team like Montreal, which was like the 5th worst record in the league, make the playoffs, and yet they win a playoff game.
They played well. They almost won. So anything's possible, and that's what makes hockey so interesting. In the NBA, it's not everybody's game. We know who's going to win. We know who's going to the final. Tell me this. If you guys don't know basketball, I can tell you this. That everybody that's listening to us right now, if you don't know who the top 4 teams that are going to go to or fight for the NBA championship, you don't know basketball. Everybody knows who's fighting. You have the Lakers, you have the Nets, you have the LA Clippers, if you want to argue that point, the LA Clippers or the Utah Jazz, if you want to argue that. And maybe, now that Miami made that trade, Miami. I don't think the 76ers are good enough. They don't have a point guard. And that they needed to make a move for a point guard. They did not do that at the trade deadline for a Lowry. I thought that would have put them on top right there in the Eastern Conference. They didn't make that move. They're not doing anything. They're not winning without a top end point guard, and they don't have one. And Ben Simmons can't play the point. What's Snug saying right here?
Or in the playoffs. Oh God, really, Snug?
What do you say?
You could say it on the new show when you give Speedy an atomic wedgie. Come on, Snug. I thought you were on my side.
I don't know about on your side. Snug is on everybody's side until he can attack somebody one way or another.
Yes, but mostly he attacks you. So.
Well, what else is new? It's very simple to attack me.
Kings, Timberwolves, Bulls, and Grizzlies. Yeah, those are the
top 4 picks.
Well, those are right now fringe playoff teams. Yes,
all 4
not
teams.
The Timberwolves, but the other 3.
All 4 teams are going to have top 5, top 7 picks. Anyways, what about the Bucks? That's an interesting question. Where do the Bucks fall? And I love the move with Tucker. I think Tucker adds a deficiency that they didn't have last year in the playoffs, and that's perimeter defense. Being that their coach is the defensive-minded coach, they had problems on the perimeter last year in the playoffs. They did, defending the perimeter. Eric Middleton is not a good defensive player. Chris Middleton is not a good defensive player. He's more of an offensive player. He was the shooting guard and the 3 for the Bucks last year. And who's played very well? Giannis' brother. He's played very well.
Yeah.
Played very well against the Knicks, and he's looked good in the last 2 games.
They got inspired by the Lakers on Antetokounmpo winning a championship last year.
I don't know what it was, but his brother looked really, really good, especially against a defense like the Knicks, one of the top defenses in the league. But I think when you look at the Milwaukee Bucks, they added a good shooter in Tucker. They added some defense to the perimeter. That makes them a much better team. What really bothers me about the Bucks is Giannis is not a good playoff player. What teams are figuring him out is keeping him on the outside and making Giannis try to beat them on the outside. And Giannis is not a good shooter. And you saw it. We saw it against we've seen it over the years against the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors are the one that figured it out. The Raptors are the one that shut Giannis off. And once the Raptors did it, now everybody's doing it. Who did it last year to them?
It was Miami.
Miami did it to them. Kept him on the perimeter, kept him around the perimeter. He's not a 16, 17-foot jump shooting type of player, power forward, and Giannis wasn't the same player. What is he saying right over here?
Top 4 in Western: Utah, Clippers, Lakers, Nuggets. My sleeper is the Suns. Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's about right. Yeah. I think the Suns are going to get knocked out early. I don't think they're... DeAndre Ayton has been a bust.
Well, it depends on where their seed is. If they play as a 2 against who's 7 right now, the Spurs, I think they'll beat the Spurs. But if they're 3 against the Blazers, yeah, I see the Blazers winning that too, and definitely against the Nuggets.
I think DeAndre Ayton has been a bust. I really do. A guy that's averaging 14 and 10, and he was the number 1 pick in the draft, 2.5, 3 years ago?
2018.
Yeah, to me, he's a bust. He's not the player that everybody thought he was going to be. I thought by now DeAndre Ayton would be averaging somewhere around 22 and 10 or 24 and 10. That's what I thought. DeAndre Ayton has not developed over there in Phoenix, and you can't say it because of the talent. You added Chris Paul, a guy that could pass the ball. You would expect him to play better this year. He hasn't. He's actually gotten worse. So Ayton's not the player that they thought he was going to be. Devin Booker's a special player, but Devin Booker, we've heard stories last year that he wanted out. That's why they added Chris Paul. Is Devin Booker happy right now with the Phoenix Suns, being that they have a guy like Chris Paul there? Yeah, he's happy. But Chris Paul's 36, 37 years old. How many years do you think he has left? And if they get knocked out early again, he's going to want out. So is Chris Paul. He signed a 1-year deal. Chris Paul's always wanted to be a Knick. Always. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Paul is the point guard for the New York Knicks next year. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised.
Josh gets his wish.
Oh, Josh who?
Silverberg.
Oh, I didn't know that he wanted Chris Paul.
He was fighting with you about
I don't
Chris
remember.
Paul versus Russell Westbrook.
I fight it with everybody about a lot
That's
of
true.
things. So
fair enough.
I don't remember things like that. And honestly, Chris Paul's a free agent next year. I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Paul comes to the Eastern Conference, and he always wanted to play for the Knicks. Rose is his old agent. Wesley was a part of the Pelicans when he played for the Pelicans or whatever they were, the New Orleans. Were they the Pelicans?
Yeah, they were the Pelicans.
Okay, the Pelicans, and obviously he loves Tom Thibodeau. So I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Paul is playing for the Knicks next year as their starting point guard. So. And they don't have to give up anything for Chris Paul.
Right.
So they could sign Chris Paul to a 2-year deal worth about $15 a year, $14 a year. And they can actually make a move for Devin Booker and bring both those guys to the New York Knicks with R.J. Barrett and Julius Randle. You know, maybe Quigley would be gone or Obi Toppin would be gone and some draft stock, but I wouldn't be surprised. And the Knicks are 2 players away from being a championship competitive team. They're 2 players, 1 superstar and 1 great player away from being a contender. That's what I think the Knicks are. But we'll see, especially in the Eastern Conference where it's very open.
Yeah.
and I don't trust the Nets because they don't play defense. And when the playoffs come around, it becomes a half-court game and it's all defense. And they don't play defense. And watch, when they play some of these good teams, you're going to see that the 76ers are going to give them problems. Milwaukee's going to give them problems because they're not going to be able to stop the Greek Freak. They're not going to be able to stop Giannis.
Yeah, now the question is, a lot of those same teams, though, do they have the offensive playoff performance identities to work? Because we mentioned Giannis had some playoff struggles recently.
Yes, he has, because they figured him out.
Same with the Sixers guys.
Same with James Harden.
Yeah, same with James Harden, too. But the difference is the Nets also have the other guys to complement with that, where can someone else step up for the Sixers if that's the case? Can someone step up for Milwaukee if that's the case? Because it's still an offensive league primarily. I've always said with basketball especially, you need some level of defense to win. You kind of like a god-awful defense, but you need the offensive teams are still going to rise to the top. You see the exceptions like Toronto. Toronto was more of a defensive team.
What is Carl saying over here?
Carl says one of the top rebounders of all time, ESPN Radio, is saying so.
Tell ESPN Radio they don't know what the hell they're talking about. I think Andre Drummond is sensational. He is the best, by far the best offensive rebounder in the NBA. By far. It's not even close. Anthony Davis is the second. Just think about it this way. The Lakers have the 2 best offensive rebounders in all of the league. 2. Both of them on one team. And LeBron James is in the top 10 in offensive rebounding. So you've got 3 of the top 10 offensive rebounders on one team. And Andre Drummond is a scary player with the Lakers. You had a big man of that magnitude. They haven't had a big man like that really since Shaquille O'Neal. I mean, I won't say Howard because Howard sucked with him. He was terrible, horrible.
Oh, that was a bust.
He was a complete bust. Both times he came to the Lakers. Absolutely horrendous. But Andre Drummond is a much better player than Howard is. And he can shoot the three, something that Howard can't. Drummond can actually shoot the three.
John says if the Lakers play the Nets, Lakers will win in 5. I don't know about 5.
Six.
But
Six.
Is
I see 6. I see 6. I think the problem with the Nets against the Lakers is they can't play defense. They're not going to stop LeBron James.
Right.
They're not going to stop him. So if they can't stop him, how are they going to win? Because I'll tell you this, the Lakers are going to be able to stop the Nets. They're going to be able to stop him because LaMarcus Aldridge is not the same perimeter shooter. We all know with the great
Blake Griffin.
Blake Griffin is. I mean, the guy's a dunker, and that's it. He's not a perimeter shooter. His perimeter shot got better, but it's not good. Okay? James Harden can't shoot a lick in the playoffs. And Kyrie Irving's probably the best all-around offensive player they have in the playoffs, besides Kevin Durant.
Carl says Pau Gasol. Yeah, I think we're more talking centers than just overall.
Yeah,
because Gasol was more of a power forward type.
Yeah, I think more of a center. I'm talking about the center position and what he can do. Gasol was a good rebounder. He wasn't an elite rebounder. This guy's an elite rebounder.
Right, because Gasol, I think, was more of the well-rounded type big man. He could shoot threes. He could pass. He could do a lot of different things. Like if he was in his prime in today's game, I think he would be one of the greatest players.
Could you imagine him and Chris Paul if they both were there?
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul and Gasol with Kobe Bryant was supposed to be. How many championships they would have won if that would have happened?
But let's say he started his career maybe 8 years later, 6 years later, something like that. You're talking about him in elite category because he had kind of the skill set like before the time started changing to that type of hybrid forward wing type player like he was.
I mean, you think of the Lakers and what adding Drummond. That was a great move for the Lakers because they needed to solidify their spot when LeBron James comes back and Anthony Davis. Now you solidified your position because you're far and along the best team in the Western Conference by far. Yeah, I mean, with the depth that you have coming off your bench, you have a better point guard in Schroeder going into the playoffs this year. Rondo is a washed-up player. Let's be honest. Rondo is washed up. He's a good player. He's not Schroeder in the prime of his career.
Yeah, but the other question with that is how good is Schroeder going to be as a starting point guard in the playoffs?
I think he'll be fine.
The only
playing
times
with
he's
LeBron
made the
James.
playoffs, really, he was with the Thunder last year and did fine, and then he was with Atlanta as a backup more when
He
Jeff
should have been
Teague
the
was
starter.
the point guard.
He should have been the starter.
Not
Jeff
at that
Teague,
point in his career.
Jeff Teague was old.
He was still good though with Atlanta. Once he left Atlanta, he wasn't the same player.
I think when you look at the big picture, the Lakers are easily the favorites to come out of the West, and they're easily the championship favorites. Even with the Nets, with the acquisitions they made with goofball Mr. Ali Hooper and LaMarcus Aldridge, who I love. I love LaMarcus Aldridge. What is
Paul feeding any of these top big men like Gasol, he would have broken Scott Skiles' assist record. Yeah, probably. I can see that.
Yep. I absolutely believe that.
21 assists in a game that he got? Yeah.
Yep.
That was something.
And John Stockton being the best passer of all time in my eyes.
Right.
So I think you're right, Carl. I think that you look at the big picture and where the Lakers sit. The Lakers are sitting very happy. Trust me. They're in a very good position right now. And the Clippers, even though I think this could be the Clippers' year to really dethrone the Lakers.
They're still coached by Tyronn Lue.
That's why. That's what I was just about to say. Tyronn Lue is running that organization. And when that happens, that's a big... But again, Doc Rivers was no better either. So
he's a lot better than Tyronn Lue.
I don't know about that. They both stink. They're both terrible. Both of them lived off the Celtics. Obviously, Doc Rivers lived off the great Kevin Garnett at the top of his career. Paul Pierce and Ray Allen. They were in the primes of their careers. And then you have Tyronn Lue living off of LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love.
Yes,
okay?
and then when they left, they were like one of the worst teams in the league.
Nothing.
I don't know if Doc Rivers really had those kinds of years, though.
The Clipper teams with the talent that he has, and he had. That's why he got fired last year. They should have knocked off the Nuggets. There was no reason why the Nuggets knocked them off and beat them. They were by far the better team. So before we go, I want to finish up with some baseball conversation. And this week, guess what? We start the MLB season. Now, I know everybody wants to hear our thoughts with March Madness, and we will get into that quickly before the show is over. But I will say this. Going into the season, I think Met fans should be more confident with the health that they have than the New York Yankee fans should, okay? I think with DJ LeMahieu getting the contract that he did, he plays a big part of where the Yankees are going to be this year, especially in the middle of that lineup. And you talk about Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge he has to stay healthy in a full season this year, 162 games. He needs to stay healthy for at least 140-something games. And Giancarlo Stanton, I love what I've heard about, what they have said, that they've taken a break with the working out and their muscle toning and everything that they've done in the offseason. And they worked out together this year in the offseason. So that's good news for the Yankees. And Gleyber Torres coming into the season, coming into spring training, 100% healthy and light on his legs, and you saw it. He was one of the best hitters in spring training in all of baseball. So if Gleyber Torres can stay healthy and stay in shape all season long, he's going to be up for an MVP this year. But looking at the injuries that they have in their bullpen and the what ifs in the starting rotation, I think the Yankee fans and the Yankee brass need to worry, because I worry about situations moving forward with the Yankees on health, with Corey Kluber, with the fact that Domingo Germán hasn't played in almost 2 years. I mean, Jordan Montgomery missed. He came back at the end of the season last year. He missed almost a full year and a half. Yeah. I mean, all these are all what if pitchers. The only guarantee on Talon who is coming off an injury too.
Tommy John surgery.
Yeah, Tommy John surgery. So he missed a full season. So the only guarantee the Yankees have going into the season in their starting rotation is Garrett Cole, their $300 million player.
Carl says, no way Judge stays healthy. I hope so, but I doubt it. Yeah, that seems most likely. Mm-hmm. And then he also says, thoughts on the Mets bullpen. Every year they're good on paper, but there's certain guys that underperform, Carl. So we hope that big-name guys can actually pitch well, that they give a lot of money to. But the Mets have a great history of letdowns when it comes to relief pitchers, or they let relief pitchers go too early, right, and then they do well other places. Heath Bell.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've seen a lot of different acquisitions the Mets have made over the years, a.k.a. Sandy Alderson, too. So he's not very good at bringing bullpen players either with the money that he has.
Well,
but
the Mets do it especially bad when you bring in the all-time single-season saves leader the following season, and then he stinks.
And by the way, Lindor went out to dinner last night with Steve Cohen. I mean, they're obviously figuring out how they can negotiate a deal. And I'll say it again, and I'll say it over again. Before Thursday, Lindor will have his contract with the New York Mets. I think he's going to get a $340 million contract. Do I think he's getting overpaid? Yes, I do. But a guy like Steve Cohen is not going to be afraid of paying a player of that magnitude that kind of money, because he's going to be the face of the organization, and him and the polar bear are going to be the face of the organization moving forward.
Yeah, John just actually commented on the polar bear. Beast year this year from Alonso.
We'll see about that. I don't know. After what we saw last year, he's got to get comfortable in the box. And I love what we heard from him, especially getting off of social media and some of the things that he said. He's more of a team player, and he's the future captain of the New York Mets. It's not going to be Lindor. It's going to be him. But we'll see what he does. What is Carl saying right over here?
Remember Antonio Alfonseca? Haha, did he ever pitch for the Mets?
Nope.
Yes, I remember Alfonseca.
Did he pitch? I don't think he did.
He did, but it wasn't much, and he was with the Phillies too, and he was overrated there too. So,
I think when you look at the Mets, there's more sure things. You have Noah Syndergaard coming back in June. Okay, with this rotation, Carrasco should be back before the All-Star break. They have a very strong rotation. I like what they did in the bullpen. Sandy Alderson had money to spend, so he did very, very well, bringing in some bullpen help from the Tampa Bay Rays. You bring in May from the Minnesota Twins. I almost said Minnesota Vikings. But I think that this bullpen is very much improved. You did bring Betances back. What is he saying with the Cubs?
Yeah, Cubs gave him big money for back then, and he was atrocious. Six-finger wonder my butt. Yeah, that's why Antonio Alfonseca is a name I haven't heard in 5 years. Yeah, that's why. He was always overrated.
I think when you look at the Mets in the big picture, this infield is going to be a lot better. They have a catcher that actually can catch the ball and throw the ball. Offensively, that's going to be a question if it can be stable in the at the catcher position, and maybe get 15 home runs this year and give you batting 250, 260. I mean, that's a pretty productive year for the catcher, especially at the catcher position for the New York Mets, if he's a good defensive player, which he is. But I think all in all, there are more sure things with the Mets than there are with the Yankees. Are the Yankees a better all-around team? They are.
Yeah.
They are. As far as their roster, their talent, they're a better all-around team. There's just so many what-ifs or woulda, coulda, shoulda things that Yankees could have done in the offseason that could have made this team a lot better as far as their pitching is concerned.
Stokes says, hey, watch it. Alfonseca's my cousin. All right, that's good to know.
Well, congratulations. Maybe we should get him on the show.
John says, what are your picks for the World Series?
That's a good question.
Ooh, okay.
We'll do that Wednesday, but
yeah, stay tuned, John.
We'll do that Wednesday, John, because we'll go throughout the league and what we think. We'll go through each division and kind of contemplate on what teams are going to have on seasons and what teams are going to have off season. You'll be very surprised. There are certain teams that were very good last year that are not going to make the playoffs and going to be bust years for them. And there are teams that you think are going to have bust years that I think are going to have better seasons than you think, and that could be squeaking into the playoffs and could be a dangerous team throughout the season. So stay tuned on Wednesday because we will get into our thoughts and who we have winning the World Series. But I think that the Mets going into the season, as a Yankee fan, I would say I'm more sure about the Mets and their health and where they're going than the Yankees.
Who would have thought I would
and
ever
who would have
hear
thought
those
that?
words?
Who would have thought that? So I think the Mets are positioned very, very well. They have depth on their roster now as far as the lineup is concerned.
Finally.
And on their bench. They have a bullpen. I think they have enough depth when it comes to the bullpen. And their rotation is going to be, when Carrasco comes back and Syndergaard comes back, they have the best rotation in baseball. They do. So I think that the Mets are set up very, very well to win. And now I don't know if they're going to win a championship. And I don't know when you hear Steve Cohen saying that it's a win or bust in the next 3 to 4 years. But he will open up his pockets one way or another to make sure that the Mets are going to be competitive and be a championship competitive team moving forward.
Yeah, the thing that's interesting is how long the contract will be for Lindor, because we know he's going to get a large average annual value. It's just a matter of, is it going to be like a double-digit year contract like you saw Tatis get, or is it going to be in that 8-year, 7-year ballpark where he gets more money per year?
He's going to get an 8-year deal with the Mets. He's going to be a lifelong Met. Moving forward, he's 27 years old. He'll get an 8-year deal from the Mets worth about $350 million. He will be the third highest paid player, second highest paid player in Major League history. Mm-hmm. And being that he's the best all-around shortstop in the league until proven that he's not, and he is. Yes. I'm a Yankee fan, and I love Gleyber Torres. I think Gleyber Torres is a better offensive player than Lindor. Not by much, but he is. He's a better power hitter. He's a better average hitter, and he's a better overall playoff hitter. But all around five-tool player, Lindor is the best five-tool player at his position in the league. So, and there's no argument to that. And anybody that says that he isn't, even Yankee fans don't know what the hell they're talking about. Okay, because he is. He's the best five-tool player at his position. But offensively, he's not. Baez, I take Baez over him. Yeah. I would take Gleyber Torres over him. I would take quite a few shortstops over him offensively. But everything else, I wouldn't. So, but the Mets are set up very, very well. I think the team, and I'll give you one thought. The surprise team and the team that's going to stand, they're not much of a surprise, but being that a lot of people think they're going to take a step back, I think they're going to take steps forward because of the move that they made for Nolan Arenado. Watch out for the Cardinals this year. I think the Cardinals are going to win their division, hand over fist their division. I'm talking about same division with Milwaukee. Milwaukee, I think might be a bust here. I could see them moving on for some players at the trade deadline and rebuilding, restocking up in their farm system. But I think Milwaukee is a team that might take steps back. That's the only two teams. The only two teams that I'm going to give you until on Wednesday. I think the Cardinals are going to be a breakout team this year. I think they're going to be very dangerous. I know a lot of people say their rotation isn't that good, but their rotation is a lot better than you think because they have a lot of youngsters coming up that are very, very high on a lot of people's value charts.
And a good manager in Mike Shildt.
Yes. And I think the Milwaukee Brewers, I think this is going to be a season where they're going to start taking 2 steps back. I think they're going to move on from some rotation players at the trade deadline, and I think eventually Hayden is going to be gone. I think they're going to trade him. How do you pronounce Hader? I think Hader will be traded one way or another. Before we go, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to talk about March Madness, and I will say this. And Speedy, I know you're trying to get music. Is that what you're trying to do here? Let's go through our bracket and let's go all the way to the Elite Eight and why what are our thoughts on the highs and the lows of the Sweet 16? Go ahead, Speed.
Well, the Sweet 16 actually had relatively close games, and especially with the double-digit seeds, a lot of them hung tough if they didn't win. You saw UCLA win yesterday against Alabama.
Unbelievable what UCLA did.
UCLA made a lot of contested shots in the first half and in overtime, which was very impressive. Alabama obviously beat themselves with all the free throws they missed, too. That didn't exactly
I
help.
couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe Alabama got knocked out. But who would have thought that UCLA is going to the Elite Eight? And who's to say they can't go all the way to the national championship?
Mick Cronin's probably won more games than he did in like the last 6 years with Cincinnati in this tournament so far. Because remember, they also played the play-in game against Michigan State too. Came back and won that game after it looked like they were getting outplayed. So very impressive showing for UCLA, and then Oregon State too. Loyola was getting hyped up after they beat Illinois, and then Oregon State showed that their defense is not something to sleep on either. They had a great game plan as well. Shooting-wise, they did a great job. Now they're playing against Houston. They're trailing right now, but they're hanging tough at the moment. They would be the first 12 seed to make the Final Four if they were to somehow win that game, but Houston is no easy task either.
I will say this. I told you about USC. I told everybody about USC. If they can get out, they have, I believe, the number one pick in this year's draft. Sensational player in Mobley. His brother's going to be a good player, too, in the NBA. I don't know if he's a top 10 pick, but he'll be a top 20 pick because he's got all the talent in the world, too. He hasn't developed as quick as his brother has, but both players are going to be very, very good players and good NBA players. Another guy that the Knicks should definitely look at.
It was the other Isaiah, though, that came through against Oregon. Isaiah White with a great game. I think he had 5 3-pointers in that game. And USC, again, these big first halves they keep having, and they really they got off these great starts, and they just hang with it. And, again, Andy Enfield proving why he is one of the most underrated coaches in college basketball. He did it with Florida Gulf Coast in the Sweet 16. I think a great team.
I like to root for Villanova because it's a Big East team and a team that's won a national championship not once but twice in the last 5 years. Love their coach. I think he could be a great NBA coach if he ever decides to leave Villanova. But Baylor knocked them off. It was a very close game throughout the game. Baylor, over the last 2 games against Wisconsin and Villanova, they play good defense. And defense wins championships. As good as they are offensively, you have to have some kind of defense. And they showed why they're a top 10 team, a top 5 team in the league throughout the year. But Arkansas is going to be a tough test going into tonight's game, but I think they can definitely do that, and I think they can absolutely compete against Arkansas. I'm not a big Arkansas fan. Even in the tournament, I thought they were going to be knocked out early. But they couldn't. They almost got knocked off by Oral Roberts the other day. So
I'm surprised actually that game wasn't more high scoring because Arkansas and Oral Roberts both have top 10 offenses in the country. Both of them have great guard play. Oral Roberts was winning at halftime. They were doing a great job, and they just had one bad stretch in the second half. But you kind of expected them to hang tough, and they did a great job. And that's just a great journey for them, what they were able to prove in this tournament. They got the leading scorer in the country with Amos, and he continued to play well. Arkansas hit some tough shots at the end of that game. They just hit more of the contested ones. Oral Roberts almost stole that one. That was very close with that last shot.
And Michigan, who really showed me a lot the other day. They really did. And by the way, everybody that hated this hire of Juwan Howard, I mean, how many people are eating their words?
Yep.
How many? Because this is a guy that how many jobs did he was interviewing for in the NBA? Nobody decided to hire him. Steve Nash got a job, and this guy didn't. Okay, and this guy's taking a Michigan team in his first year all the way to the Elite Eight. Okay, and if he wins a national title with this team, I think he's going to have a job with the NBA very quickly. I really do. I think a team's going to give him an opportunity. But sensational game against Florida State, a team that I didn't think they were going to kill the way they did. Florida State is a very good team. I know you didn't like them. But
I didn't like them because they were young, but I like the coach. I like the system. I just thought they were very young, but they still are potent enough offense where Michigan proved a lot defensively how they could play against anybody at this point. They did it to LSU the round before, and Michigan now being so well coached with Juwan Howard, so gritty. You always look at a lot of these different sports as these underdog type, kind of shied away from 1 seeds, and I was a victim of that. I picked LSU in that game.
You pick a lot of teams that completely got West Virginia. You're number one, a team that you had national
right.
title.
But I also did say I could see them losing to San Diego State, but obviously San Diego State was
nobody thought they were going to get knocked out by Syracuse.
Right, I didn't expect, but because I just thought that region was really tough, so I said that could go either way. But going back to Michigan, a lot of these underdog 1 seeds, even in pro sports too, you see. Like the Broncos, you see the Eagles in the NFL, even in baseball too. A lot of these teams that you don't expect them to be because they're 1 seeds. Like, why are they 1 seeds? they end up winning titles. So you see that kind of thing with Michigan now, and being how well coached they are, they kind of have to represent the rest of the Big Ten, which fell apart. And now you're seeing that competition that they could just play against anybody at this point. And even though, as much as I like Arkansas on that side, and even Houston on that side of the bracket, and Houston as well on that side of the bracket, Michigan's grit has proven to me that I think they're my favorite to win it all.
I think it's Michigan and Baylor. I mean, I took Iowa versus, obviously, Baylor. Iowa got knocked out in the second round. I was very surprised about that. I thought Iowa was going to at least get into the Elite Eight. I didn't think they were going to get knocked out as they did. But who would have thought Illinois was going to get knocked out, which Illinois was one of everybody's favorites. So, but I think that it's going to be an interesting Elite Eight. There are teams that are in the Elite Eight that you wouldn't have thought. UCLA, I didn't think that Oregon State would be there.
Oregon State was a 14-12 team, and they just got in because they won the Pac-12 tournament.
And I was the only one that picked USC to really be where they are. And I would be surprised if USC knocks off Gonzaga.
That's what I have, too. It's such a potent offense. Gonzaga, at some point, I feel like the pressure will get to them with the undefeated season on the line. I mean, they've looked good in the second half in every game so far. But USC has gotten off to big leads where how will they fare playing from behind if they're Gonzaga? Because Gonzaga hasn't played from behind very much. They did in the conference championship against BYU, but again, I think this USC team a lot more potent. I think the rest of it's going to be kind of similar in terms of it being normal. It wouldn't be surprising if Oregon State pulled it off, but everything else seems pretty normal. That's the one big upset I see. And of course, I have Arkansas too, but Arkansas over Baylor wouldn't be a huge upset.
I'm dancing a little bit, as you can see. I'm dancing a little bit. Because
also are UCLA and Oregon State to double-digit Elite Eight appearances. So.
Well, I think that looking at the national championship, I think we might have one surprise going. I think one of these number one ranked teams are going to make it. Because you have Michigan, you have Gonzaga, and you have Baylor. I think one of these teams are going to make it to the national championship. But I think there could be a surprise team that's going to make it to the national championship game and could win it all. If Baylor, I still think Baylor's winning the whole thing. But if they get knocked off against Arkansas, or they get out of this game against Arkansas and they have to play who they would
Houston, they could play. Houston could beat
them.
They'll
beat
too.
Houston.
I think they will too if that's the matchup. But it's still going to be a tough test because Houston's well rounded on both sides of the ball. So I just don't. Their coach has had some issues in the tournament, and they don't shoot free throws.
They have the easiest rounds. I mean, they have the easiest way to a national championship right now because they would have to. They have Houston.
4 double-digit seeds. Wow.
Yeah, they have Houston and Arkansas. You know what I mean? That's all they have to get through, and I think, or Oregon State if they have to go through Oregon State.
So maybe the competition, with Houston could definitely get
Michigan would have to play Gonzaga in the Final Four. Or Michigan or USC, which of two potent teams. And I still think Michigan will knock off UCLA. I'll be very surprised.
I think Michigan will win either way, no matter who they end up playing.
But I think Michigan and Gonzaga are going to have the hardest. Gonzaga turns out to be, they're going to have the hardest way to the national championship because they're going to have to beat USC, and then they're going to have to beat Michigan. So, to get to the national championship. And then they have to beat Baylor.
And Michigan's a gritty bunch, and I don't think that will be happening if that's the case. Because if it happened with Kentucky in 2015, the Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, that Kentucky team, they lost to Wisconsin. That was the Final Four round. So if that's Gonzaga and Michigan, that would be the similar equivalent. But don't be surprised if it's USC either, the way they're getting off to these hot starts. Remember, the Pac-12 does familiarity with these West Coast teams, too. So that could also play an advantage, even with a newer coach for USC.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the final show at Down to the Wire, because next week we're not leaving. It's going to be a completely new and improved show, ladies and gentlemen. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, we will be doing our new show. It's going to be called The Sports Loud Mouths, and it will be at 9 p.m. Wednesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. So all you people that are coming home from work that don't get a chance to listen to the show, or they're not around to listen to the show, you're going to have the opportunity to watch a 3-hour show, and you're going to see some crazy content from us. We're going to have a reporter that's going to be working and getting reports and all this other stuff, and we're going to have some fun. You guys are going to have a lot of fun on this new show. Josh Silverberg and Ike Feldman will be joining us on the Sports Loudmouths. We have a new logo that's going to be out. I think you guys are going to really, really enjoy it. Snug the Cat says what?
The new show will have more adult themes and hijinks. Don't miss it.
I don't think that's funny, but okay.
Okay, Snug.
I think you're out of your damn mind. But yeah, some of the things Snug says, but that to me was a little out there. But it's going to be a great show, and I know you fans out there that enjoy our show now is going to see a lot more content, and it's going to be a lot more opportunities to get involved and talk to us on our show. So Down to the Wire will be shelved, so will Below the Mic, and the new show, The Sports Loudmouths, on a new time and a new days on the network, which I'm very excited about. I think everybody should be, because it's going to be a great, great show.
I guess you could say Down to the Wire is why being wired down.
Yeah, well, it's going to be wired down and listen, the show will be there. You know, I mean, the name will be there, and if somebody we bring in that's looking for a new show or something like that, they'll have the opportunity to take over the logo and the name. So, but I think this is going to be a great opportunity for us to really show a different stake of what our network is. And I think on Wednesdays and Thursdays, you guys are going to really like the final show of our network. Every single Wednesdays and Thursday will be that show. It'll be a 3-hour compacted show where we're going to have some guests. It's going to be fun. I'm telling you guys, you're going to love it. It's going to be a great content show. If you love sports media and sports radio, you're going to love this show. Speedy, do you have anything to say before we go?
Do I have anything to say? Enjoy the games tonight. Enjoy the Elite Eight for sure. If you have any hope with your brackets left, keep it going. And baseball season up this week. All baseball fans looking forward to it. Enjoy.
Well, I want to thank all the fans that listen to our shows throughout the week. Download our app by going to iOS, WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Go check out our website. We're going to have the New York Minute. Are you working on the trivia questions?
Yeah, I have. I'm almost done with them.
All right, so we're going to have a trivia game where you're going to be able to win prizes in the very near future. It's going to be a very interesting thing. You can't cheat, so you can only play the game once every 72 hours if you don't guess right. So you can't cheat. So I'm going to make it very hard for you guys to guess the answers or look the answers up.
Don't be the Houston Astros.
And you'll have a 1-minute timer. You'll have a 1-minute timer on the thing where if you don't get the questions right in 1 minute, you're not gonna win the prize. So
not just any minute, a New York minute.
A New York minute. So
and
I'm working on sponsors to be a sponsor of that. So stay tuned for that as well. And tomorrow, what do we got?
Tomorrow we got Falco's Facts from 2 to 3:30, and we have Off the Mat from 8 to 10 tomorrow p.m. And tonight we have the Fantasy Millionaires 10 to 11 p.m. tonight.
Are they on tonight, or are they taking a break? I think he's.
Oh, is he taking a break?
He's taking a break. I don't think the Fantasy Millionaires will be here tonight. He will be back. They will be back on next Monday.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they're not doing the show tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
All right, I didn't know that.
Because did you hear from them?
No, but I usually text them after the show. So
all right, so text them. I'm pretty sure they're not doing a show tonight. Okay. They will be back. Their show will be back Monday. I think Bo and the NWN show will definitely be on Friday. So. Mm-hmm. But I think they're on vacation or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But you can check out. I don't know if they're planning to do a show, but you can check it out. I don't know if Mike's doing the show by himself, or he's bringing Bo on to help out. I don't know. So you can check that out. That's it for our show. Thank you to all the fans that listen to our show shows every single day. Download our app, check out our website, and be clear of the Speedy PD underwear. Remember,
you don't have to worry about that. Well, it will not be exposed publicly.
It will be exposed.
No.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. We will talk to you Wednesday. Until then, this is Errol Marks and the great Speedy PD Tidy Whitey Man saying good night. We'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.